a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Sometimes love don't feel like it should, so baby, hurt so good. This is Total Football Talk. Welcome once again to another edition of Total Football Talk, gridiron action and news the way you like it. I am one of the co-hosts of this show, Cole Johnson, aka the Mad Scientist and the EP Extraordinaire, and I am joined as always by the other co-host of this program, Mr. Commander's Gridiron Report, Mr. D. Will in the evening, soon to be or was and soon to be in the future, Mr. In or Out. The man who sports the D. Willie Bucks, D. Willie or Drew Willingham. How you doing, my man?
Doing well, brother. Appreciate the great intro there. Missed you last week. Had a great episode with old Kyle Nash, who filled in my shoes pretty well. I did my best to fill in your shoes as well as I could. But things are back to normal this week. Looking forward to another great one here on this Tuesday.
And many special thanks to Kyle Nash. Thank you for filling in for me as I was on the hard roads going to see my mother-in-law. But I'm glad to be back. Glad to see you. And I'm glad that the Thanksgiving holiday served you well, and it did me. So for some of these teams in the NFL, I'm not so sure Thanksgiving was so good for them. But we'll talk about that on opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
So all teams did play this week, so no teams were on byes. And that'll be the last we say that until week 15. But as for the Thanksgiving Day games, I would love to do one of these graphics. But we're going to do it straight up old-fashioned style. The Cowboys and your Commanders. All right, so we'll start with this one just to get this out the way. 45-10 was the final score. The game really wasn't that close. Dak Prescott threw for over 300 yards of 22 for 32 and 4 touchdowns. Tony Pollard, he gave you 79 yards on the ground with 13 carries, 6 receptions with 24 more yards. The defense of the Cowboys gave you 4 sacks and a pick. Sam Howell, he gave you 300 yards on 28 to 44 passing with a pick. And Curtis Samuel gave you 9 receptions for 100 yards. I know you recovered your Commanders on the Commanders Gridiron Report yesterday. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Going into halftime, it wasn't that bad of a contest, as it was only 20-10 going into halftime. Looking at this overall, it really didn't start pulling away from the Commanders until the fourth quarter. As the third quarter, there wasn't much action either. And Dallas got to start it off in the first quarter with that 7-0 lead, and it was kind of bland throughout the second quarter, to where we had the 20-10 lead for Cowboys at halftime. Now, going into the fourth quarter is when you had the field goal, the 15-yard touchdown to CeeDee Lamb, the 34-yard reception to Kevontae Turpin for a touchdown, and to seal the deal, the 63-yard interception return for a touchdown, which is what sealed the deal for the Cowboys to give them that 45-10 win. Following that, someone of note lost their employment, with the Commanders, but that's something that we will definitely get to a little bit more throughout this episode, as the chopping block is right around the corner.
Yeah. And yeah, we will definitely feature that on the chopping block. Well, yeah, we'll get this out the way. Why not? Well, unfortunately, Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator, had a horrible Thanksgiving because he received the pink slip. I feel for him, although you sort of seen that coming because, well, they weren't ready to get rid of Ron Rivera yet. But oh boy, I think more of these firings are going to be on the way for the rest of the 2023 campaign for your beloved Commanders. Ouch.
First of many.
Yeah, definitely first of many. The 49ers and the Seahawks, well, they helped shape the end of the Thursday affairs. Another bull and shoe ugly game. 31-13 was the final score. Another one that isn't as close as the final score indicated. Christian McCaffrey, 114 yards on the ground on 19 carries and 2 touchdowns. He had 5 more receptions through the air for 25 yards. Brock Purdy, a solid and efficient 21 of 30, 209 yards, a touchdown, but a pick. The 49ers defense dominated with Nick Bosa getting 2 sacks and Jason Hargrave getting a sack and a half. The defense as a whole got 6 sacks. And the 49ers offense, along with the 114 yards rushing from McCaffrey, that was part of 169 yards on the ground that they gained. Your thoughts on this one, sir?
Outside of the 9-minute and 7-second mark remaining in the first quarter, this game wasn't competitive at all. This was definitely, I agree, a bowling shoe ugly game. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was definitely a big spark to the game. Brock Purdy, played game manager, I would say is probably the best way to put it. He did have the 1 turnover, but at the same time, overall, he did well enough to help secure the victory and not do so much to hurt them. That defense, though, the 49er defense, definitely stepping it up. Not that hard when you're playing against an offense like the Seahawks that has definitely been exposed in multiple cases throughout this year. But, outside of it being competitive at the 9-minute and 7-second mark in the first quarter, this game was definitely bowl and shoe ugly. There was not much to watch within this game.
It was not. Mickey, how you doing, my brother? I hope everything's good with you and your world. Man. Yeah.
Mick was there for shenanigans yesterday.
I bet he was. I bet he gave you all your business in the CGR report yesterday.
I was ready to end the show at 45 minutes, and there was so much shenanigans, we went to about like an hour and 20 minutes.
Nice.
There's so much shenanigans in the comments. We even got into NBA. I'm like, sick. What are you doing?
Not in the NBA. Oh my. Football show, you're talking NBA stuff. That's great. He says, well, all I can say is the Seahawks didn't show up to play. And unfortunately, that has been the fate for the Seahawks the last 2 games they played. Hopefully that will change. We will talk about them a little more in the featured attraction segment.
They got that Commanders curse. They got the victory over the Commanders. And ever since then, 2 games skid there, Mick.
Oh my goodness. First ever Black Friday game took place in the Meadowlands between the Jets and the Dolphins. 34-13 was the final score. Again, the Dolphins winning. The game was not even as close as the final score indicated. Tua Tagovailoa, a rather efficient day for him. 21-30, 243 yards, a touchdown, but 2 picks. Jalen Waddle, 8 receptions, 114 yards. Tyreek Hill on the hunt to get 2,000 yards in a single season before we get to week 18. That's important because he's avoiding that asterisk. 9 receptions, 102 yards and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert on the ground. He gave you 94 yards and 20 carries and 2 touchdowns. The Dolphins offense, along with that 94 yards on the ground that Mostert gained, he was part of a 167-yard rushing attack for them. And the defense, with Christian Wilkins leading the way with 2 sacks and Emmanuel Ogba with a sack and a half, they gave you 7 sacks, putting good Lord. I'm not even going to say it. Basically putting whoever is going to be the Jets quarterback, doesn't matter who it is, on the ground. Your thoughts, sir?
Very similar to the Cowboys and Commanders game. I mean, where this was not really, the Dolphins didn't run away with this until the fourth quarter.
Right.
It was still a 2-possession game going into the fourth quarter. Maybe not as ugly as what the Cowboys and Commanders game turned out to be, but at the same time, it was definitely not a game that you would want to miss the Black Friday deals to sit around and watch this when you could have got out. I thought I'd never say that, where I would much rather skip an NFL football game and go Black Friday shopping, even though most of the stuff is better nowadays to shop online, in which in my situation, I did. But when it comes to this game right here, I was at work too, so I'm glad I missed it, because this is not a game I would take off from work to watch. Now, in my opinion, I feel like they might as well just go back to having 3 games on Thanksgiving, because you would have gotten more viewership and probably more interest in that game being on Thanksgiving, as more people in a whole are off on Thanksgiving. There were a lot of people that had to go back to work on Friday. There was probably, people like ourselves, or not ourselves, but there were other people that had the whole weekend off. But some people got to work Fridays and Saturdays. So if you actually taped this game, if that's still a thing nowadays, recorded it or whatever the case may be, and had to come back and you skip Twitter just to come home and watch your beloved New York Jets, you get home and you watch this game after skipping the internet all day long just to see a 34-13 deficit, I know that you started drinking real heavily by the time you got to the fourth quarter.
Poor Tim Boyle. I think he hit the bars real early after that game, as he was put to the turf that many times. And of course, our friend and brother Brian McCarthy, he actually said, "Don't talk to me about this game. I'm too apoplectic, even if you mention it," which I understand, because the game feed. And he says, "Tell me something that I haven't heard." I said, "Well, your team did submit and did surrender a 99-yard pick 6 from a Hail Mary."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that ended the first half. That should tell you how that game went, because that right there typified the first ever Black Friday affair. Goodness gracious.
I'm interested to see how Aaron Rodgers' appearance on Pat McAfee's show is going to be today.
Yeah.
Now they dropped to 4-7. Getting closer to him finally saying he's calling it a wrap for this year.
Yeah.
And he should.
And he should. Yes, I agree. I totally agree with that.
That offensive.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
That O-line needs help. Just to sum it up, that they need more help than they can give him this season if he came back too soon.
Not even. Yeah, they're not even dealing with second stringers. It's bad. It's really bad. Whew, it's bad. Goodness gracious. Moment of silence. Okay. The Sunday 1 p.m. games, the Saints going to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to play the Falcons. Oh, yes, it was bowling shoe ugly. 24-15 was the final score. The Falcons win. They now inch, even though they both have the same records, they inch ahead of the Saints, and they now hold first place in the NFC South with the 5-6 record. Falcons offense gave you 228 rushing yards. Drake London, 5 receptions for 91 yards through the air. For a losing cause, Derek Carr, 24-38, 304 yards, and an INT. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
It's nice to see Drake London actually finally starting to fill those shoes of what his projections into that NFL draft were. We've seen some flashes in the pan from him, but this right here, probably one of the more notable games I could think of, where his 5 receptions, 91 yards impacted the team towards a win. And, this team this year with the ups and downs of Desmond Ridder, then you bring in Taylor Heineke, and it didn't work out there either. And now you're back to Desmond Ridder. The mustache still, in my opinion, isn't working out for Arthur Smith and needs to get rid of that unit. But other than that, this team is definitely staying alive in that division. The Saints are still alive too, but it doesn't look good after this past Sunday's game. And Derek Carr as well, starting to show that those droppings of the ball, I would say, in Las Vegas or Oakland, therever, definitely was a aforementioned of the future. Like, it's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, well, it's not I'll put it this way. It's what's happened with the Raiders. It was what happened with the Raiders with him. It was not a them problem, as we're seeing with the Saints. It's also a Derek Carr problem too. And that not only I don't hate Derek Carr. I'm not hating on him, but yay. You were brought there to be a difference maker, and you haven't done it thus far, sir. Hey, I'll give you credit though. You have routinely gone for over 300 yards through the air. So you know how to put the ball up, and you know how to how to wing it, and you know how to spread the ball around. Problem is, you got to put that in wins, and you got to make sure that you are the captain of the ship. We really can't say that about you being there as the Saints quarterback. Problem. Problem. And again, dumpster Pelican worthy stuff. Ooh, man. Now, I would say this game was bull and shoe ugly, but I'm not going to go there. I'm actually going to give props where it's due. The Steelers went to Paycor Stadium. They played the MASH unit now, that is the Cincinnati Bengals, at least their quarterback, because Joe Burrow is gone for the year. 16-10, the final score. The Steelers bring home a road victory as Kenny Pickett actually had a really good game. 24-33, 278 yards. Najee Harris, 15 carries, 99 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And 99 yards on the ground for Harris. Paced 153 that the Steelers did gain on the ground. We had a Pat Freiermuth sighting. Yes, the tight end gave you 9 receptions and 120 yards. But the huge fail, the Bengals offense, 11 carries, 25 yards. Your thoughts, sir?
Thought I was watching the Commanders game with the amount of rushing yards that he had. Joe Mixon, 8 carries, 16 yards. What in the father is going on out there with the Cincinnati Bengals? Looking at this team right here, definitely they miss Joe Burrow.
Badly.
And it's the Steelers themselves, for Kenny Pickett to throw for 278 yards. That speaks some volumes on that Cincinnati Bengals defense. They need to address some things.
Yes, it does.
If they're allowing Kenny Pickett to throw for 78 yards or 278 yards. Now, he didn't have a touchdown, and that's probably why the game was a 16-10 game. But if Joe Burrow was still playing, the Steelers would have lost this game, and there would have been no way that Kenny Pickett would have had the amount of time on the clock to even accumulate 278 yards. So for that, I blame this more on the fact of Joe Burrow being there, Joe Burrow being absent, than the offense only attaining to 25 rushing yards, because you might have still had bad numbers in the running game, but Joe Burrow would have made up the difference and would have got you at least 7 more points to where you would at least won by a point. Like,
yeah, there isn't a debate there. I agree with you. I mean, the Bengals look that porous, look that bad, to where they are missing his presence. And that offense is just horrible. Yeah, but 16-10 final score. The Steelers, 7-4. Whack Mike Tomlin fan. You want to fire Mike Tomlin again? Please. The man still has not had a losing season. 2 more wins, and he'll extend it to 16 seasons. Shut up. All right. Actually, a good. No, I'm not gonna lie. Titans at home. They faced off against the Panthers and beat them 17-10. The Titans defense, they gave you 4 sacks and a fumble recovery. And Derrick Henry, 18 carries, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. And if you can find anything else that's stimulating about this game, please let me know your thoughts. And this isn't because of my Titans hatred. This game was just that bad.
Oh, yeah. The number 1 overall pick only had 9 more yards than Will Levis. I mean, they both only had 18 completions. I mean, it's still very bad. I mean, I would say probably the highlight of the game and the biggest reason why the Titans won was they rode the back of Derrick Henry one more time.
Yeah.
The man had 18 carries, 76 yards, but the biggest stat of that was he had 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns definitely cemented the fact that they won this game. And if not, the Panthers would have won 10-3. And that was definitely not happening, as it was time for Frank Reich to roll on out. And we'll definitely get more into that later on. But when it comes to how ugly this game is right here, it was definitely bowling shoe ugly.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible. I tried to listen to some of it on the way home because I traveled home Sunday. I tried to listen to that game, and I listened to one drive of the Panthers, and then an hour later I listened to a drive of the Titans. Both of them were 3 and outs, and I'm like, okay, well, this sucks. I think I'll just tune into the game that I was listening to, which we will touch on later. But,
this was my mindset watching the little bit of the game that I watched.
Now, that is absurd.
That is absolutely accurate. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That is kudos, sir. That is 1,000% accurate. Oh my gosh, because that game was horrible. Goodness gracious. Now, an actual good game, an actual competition took place between the Colts and the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, they went to Indy but fell short, 27-20. The Colts were powered by Gardner Minshew. I'll leave the nickname to my partner and my brother. 24-41, 251 yards and an INT. The Colts offense, powered by Jonathan Taylor on the ground, running for 91 yards, 2 touchdowns off 15 carries. He was part of a 155-yard rushing attack on the ground for them. Michael Pittman Jr., I haven't said that name in a minute, 10 receptions and 107 yards. And the Colts defense was not to be outdone. 6 sacks with Samson Ikbukum giving you 2 of them. An INT and a fumble recovery. But for a losing effort, with fingers crossed, a dinged up Baker Mayfield, 20 of 30, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Rachaad White, they may have found their running back, 15 carries, 100 yards. And Mike Evans, 6 receptions, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Looks like the 2 quarterbacks that I have nicknames for between Bunker Stayfield and Uncle Rico matched up against each other in this contest. But, if it wasn't for the amount of points that were put up, this could have definitely flirted with bowling shoe ugly in some factors. Because, Uncle Rico is 24-41 in completions for only 251 yards and an interception. Mm-hmm. Definitely not numbers for what we would think of someone that could be a starting quarterback. And that's why he hasn't, landed any opportunities, even after he had those great moments in Jacksonville, into Philly, and now he's in Indianapolis, and which is why he was never really considered as the go-to guy. Bunker Stayfield, in the losing effort throws an interception, but the man did have 2 touchdowns. I think the lack of passing yards right there, the production there definitely hindered that offense a little bit, but they still put up 20 points nonetheless. You called it out great with Rachaad White, which is someone who's been there for a few years now, but his not remain consistent enough for Tampa Bay to really rely on him week in and week out to carry the load for the running backs. And like you said, definitely a problem. And you got to think the fact that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually have Chase Edmonds now as well to provide some type of 1-2 punch for the team, but it just hasn't completely gelled yet. Mike Evans definitely got underway, definitely made an impact there on the receiving core. But I think the turnover by Bunker Stayfield late in the game definitely impacted the way that this game turned out. And the fact that they had to punt the ball 4 times definitely wasn't anything pretty either. That definitely doesn't help you out because it gives more time possession to the other team. So good on Uncle Rico to get the win, but he wasn't the one that got the win, in my opinion, as the rest of the team around him are proving that Frank Reich was the problem last year.
Yeah. His problem last year, and we'll talk more about him and him possibly being problems this year. Yeah, boy.
I just want to name drop him as much as we can because eventually we won't be able to talk about him much longer.
That's true. And speaking about people or things we won't be talking about for much longer, the Patriots and the Giants. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That game was triple bowling shoe ugly. 10-7 was the final score. The game was as close as the final score indicated, and it was as bad as it was as well. It was paced by Tommy, don't call me Tony DeVito, 17-25, 191 yards, a touchdown and lost fumble. Jalen Hyatt. I had to do a double take of a wide receiver for the Giants actually gaining over 100 yards through the air. But 5 receptions, 109 yards, that's exactly what happened. The Patriots defense, for a losing cause, they fought hard. They put DeVito to the turf 6 times and gathered a fumble recovery. Ramondre Stevenson, pacing the 147-yard rushing attack for the Patriots offense, gave you 98 yards on the ground from 21 carries and a touchdown. But that Patriots offense with Mac Jones, and of course you have another nickname for him, and Bailey Zappi, they combined for 136 passing yards and not 1, not 2, but 3 INTs. So yes, we saw some dumpster Pelican worthy performances. Your thoughts, sir?
When it comes to this game right here, I think that it was the ultimate demise of Mac and Cheese. And as you brought up the illustrious nickname, and I bring it up now too. And if you think that he's going to be a starting quarterback next year in the NFL,
hell to the no, to the no, 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 hell no, to the no.
Because Mac and Cheese definitely needs to
Stop it. Get some help.
outside of Bill Belichick, because it's definitely not working out well at all for the Patriots. And of course, Mac and Cheese could get a new coach. You could help him out. I just don't see that happening. If you can't get the work, if you can't get the production out of yourself with Bill Belichick, who is a 6-time Super Bowl champion, even though he's been on the decline in the past 4 years without Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. But when you look at all that being said, Mac and Cheese, when you look at all that being said, Mac and Cheese is in a place to succeed. However, it's just not working. And you have Ramondre Stevenson, who's definitely helping you out on that side of the ball as well. There's no excuse to not be at least producing halfway better than what you've been producing thus far in the 2023 season. It's either XFL or bust for Mac and Cheese. That's the only thing I can really say at this point, with 6 weeks remaining in the regular season.
Yeah,
I'm 3 scores throughout the game.
I'm with you, man. To me, this has been not the first, not the second, not the third. This has been the fourth time Mac Jones has been pulled from a game this year. And yeah, unfortunately, this is an indictment against him. To me, I agree with you. I don't see him being a starting quarterback unless someone gets hurt for the rest of his career. I don't. I really don't. Oh boy, that game was pitiful, and so was, I love that mac and cheese. That's hilarious. So is Mac Jones. Goodness gracious, horrible. 10 Alex, it's good to see you. 10 Alex 21. Everything is good. I hope everything is well with you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. But good Lord, let's get off this game because it's giving me a headache just talking about it. Goodness gracious. Now, the game that I did pay attention to, part because it's my team and part because it actually was a good game, the Jaguars and the Texans. It was, I would love to say it was nip and tuck, but that would be homerism. The Jaguars controlled most of this game. They should have gone away with it, but they made mistakes, kept it close. In the end, they did pull it off, 24-21 over the Texans. This was a fight for supremacy in the AFC South. The Jaguars won it, and they split the season series with them, each team winning on their other's home stadium floor. Trevor Lawrence, 23-38, 364 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Gave you 2 carries with no yards, but that's important because one of those carries ended up being a touchdown. Calvin Ridley, 5 receptions, 89 yards of the touchdown, plus a 2-point conversion off the same play design, I mean. And Jaguars defense, paced by Josh Allen's 2.5 sacks, he gave you 4, putting C.J. Stroud on the ground. But otherwise, Stroud himself gave you 26-36, 304 yards to 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 47 yards on 6 carries and a touchdown. And Nico Collins, 7 receptions, 104 yards and a touchdown. Now, I will say this. I think the Texans had to learn a little more discipline on defense because they could have put the Jaguars offense off the field with a lot of third downs, but they didn't. And then there is Matt Alendola's miss off the crossbar from 58 yards out. And that's how the game ended. Your thoughts, sir?
You know, if we didn't have the Eagles and the Bills game, I would have voted this as the game of the week.
I would have too.
Because of how well the game was on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like yourself and others who followed the Texans, you have nothing to hang your head on because they definitely played very well, especially that rookie C.J. Stroud and what he's been doing this year. Now, people are like, no, he doesn't deserve to be the MVP, but he's definitely the offensive rookie of the year and deserves to be, you know, without a question, and deserves to at least be part of the conversation. If the season ended today for MVP, he deserves to be part of the conversation. Do I think that he deserves it over many other people who've done a great job this year? No, there's like 5 or 6 others that I can definitely still put ahead of C.J. Stroud. But looking at what this kid did in this game, and even you have it in the slate yourself, you know, 26-36, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries, 47 yards, and a touchdown. That's not usually numbers we see from a rookie. And that's something to definitely be proud of if you're a part of that organization, something to be happy about if you're a fan or someone who follows the team. And to lose by only 3 points to a team in the Jaguars who've definitely been on the come up over the past few seasons, well, most notably over the past like 2 seasons since they got rid of Urban Meyer. But, you know, now that they're 8-3, there's other teams that are 8-3 or better that are being put in the conversation for a Super Bowl appearance. And Jacksonville is a team that you only lost to by a field goal. So that has to make you feel pretty good if you are the Texans right there. And you're not that far behind as you're 6-5 at this point. So many people still at this point in the year, after 11 games in 12 weeks of the season, did not picture the Texans to even be this good at this point. Nope. And those 5 losses, there's several of them, at least 3 of the 5 that could go either way. They could easily be 9-2 right now, and that's scary if you're in the division with the Houston Texans.
Yes, they have played 7 one-score games. 3, as you so eloquently pointed out, 3 of them ended up being on the wrong side, but 4 ended up being on the right side. Of course, this was on the wrong side, but you said it. You said exactly what I was thinking when I was listening to this game, and when I heard that that Amendola's 58-yard field goal hit the crossbar. Of course, as a fan, you're like, I wanted my team to actually tie that up, but almost about maybe a second after that, I was like, you know something? A team that was supposed to win this division is who the Texans played. The Jaguars were where the Jaguars are where the Texans are now last year. So they've been through this situation, they've done it, and you hung with this team almost step for step, stride for stride. So I didn't even have a, oh my gosh, they blew it feel. I had more of a, man, they have come up pretty fast and a pretty long way. And to give the best team in the division a run for their money. Oh, and oh, by the way, they are fighting for the number 1 seed in the conference. And this is the battle you give them. All I can do is just tip my cap. And so I'm happy for them. And yes, I am an objective Texas fan. The Jaguars were the better team. I have no problems admitting that. The Jaguars were the better team. They have more talent in terms of experience. The Texans do have talent. The Jaguars have a little more talent, and they have more experience. And experience should win the day. It did. So how could I be, as a Texas fan, how could I be angry at that? All I want my team to do is fight. They fought.
You cannot be angry at all. No.
They fought. They came up short, but you know what? Oh well. And they're still in the playoff hunt. And of course, we'll talk about that a little later.
Hey, speaking of showing up, Tina Alex, I sent you a request on Discord just now. Would like to hear what you have to say in response to the things that you have said in these comments, as I can share it with Cole and vice versa. Definitely check your request. Runs with Scissors just hit you up.
Nice. All right, let's get to the late Sunday game, shall we? The Broncos, I give them mad credit. They have now reeled off 5 straight. They beat down the Browns 29-12. Until the third quarter, the game wasn't as close as the final score indicated. But the Broncos offense, 125 rushing yards. 169 passing yards, but 125 passing yards. Ugh. Horrible game for them on the passing end. But the rushing end was great for them. The defense of the Broncos, 4 sacks with Nick Bonito, giving you a sack and a half of that. And poor Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the starting quarterback of the Browns, he got knocked out the game in the third quarter. And Myles Garrett came this close to actually injuring himself as well. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
I don't know if it was just because I was just still waking up when I was reading your slate. But, if you've ever seen South Park and you look at the episode where he gets excited about going to a restaurant and you had that part on there that said Nick Bonito, I read it as Bonita and I started running around the house going, Casa Bonita, like Carmen, Nick Bonita.
Oh my God, you do a Carmen beautifully. Oh my gosh.
So looking at this game right here, it was 29-12, and definitely an ugly game for one. But did you think at this point in the year, Cole, that we would be talking about the Broncos having a record above 500? Like, especially with the way this season started, that first month, if you would have told me in week 5 that we would have a Denver Broncos team that would be at least one game over 500 before the end of the season with 6 weeks left to go at that, I'd say you'd be smoking some kind of drugs. Now, for this to happen the way that it is, again, just like I said it last week with Kyle and I've said it with you over the past month, this goes to show and is a big credit to how Sean Payton is as a coach, as he has definitely turned things around and turned that culture around, is making Russell Wilson look better. But in my opinion, the only way that Sean Payton and this Denver Bronco team is going to get better is if they either trade for, acquire, or draft a new quarterback, because Russell Wilson is not the future for Denver, at least if he has any hopes, that being Sean Payton, of leading this team to a Super Bowl. It's just not happening with Russell Wilson.
You almost have to ask the question now, is Russell Wilson the present? Because, oh my gosh. I didn't think we would so soon actually say the words, a team that can compete for a playoff spot is winning in spite of Russell Wilson instead of because of him. Now, yes, I can say that at times that Russell Wilson was part of the reason as to why the Broncos ended up being where they were. The last Sunday night game was prime example with the last drive. But for this 5-game winning streak stretch, you almost can actually say this team, for the most part, is winning in spite of him. And the decline of his skill set, I think, is what's the most alarming of it all. But got to give credit to Vance Joseph, the defense coordinator of the Broncos, who, yes, we are talking about the team that at one point in this season gave up 70 points to an NFL squad. This defense has awakened, and they are ball hawks. They are taking the ball away via interceptions or fumbles or forced fumbles. And I gotta give credit to Sean Payton. They're playing. They are player, and of course we'll talk about them as well in the featured attraction segment. But I just got to give them credit. I didn't expect it, but I'm glad to see it.
Me neither. But when you look at the fact of the Browns being down to Deshaun Watson right now, that's definitely going to help. Hurt them with their production.
Of course.
But for the Broncos to put that many points on that Browns defense is the biggest part that definitely speaks volumes to me right now, because what was supposed to carry this Browns defense without Deshaun Watson, what was supposed to carry the team without the Deshaun Watson was that defense. And now seeing what just happened against the Denver Broncos, it definitely exposed the Browns defense enough to say either they're not what we've been hyping them up to be all season long, or their mood has just completely gone down the tubes since Deshaun Watson's now out for the rest of the season.
Well, hopefully that's not the case, but I can see it. And now riding that high in Baltimore, I think they suffered a real big blow in Mile High, but we'll see if they can rebound. PJ Walker, though, I don't think is the answer at quarterback, but they may try it. I hope they don't. We'll see. And then there's the Rams put the Cardinals out of misery 37-14. Kyren Williams, 143 yards on the ground with on 16 carries, 6 receptions of 61 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. And that 143-yard performance on the ground paced the offense that gave you 228 on the ground, which I think that's a high for the ground game this week for the NFL. Matthew Stafford, an efficient 25 of 33, 29 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, though. The Rams defense, paced by Kobe Turner's 2 sacks, that gave you 4, putting Kyler Murray on the ground, who was 27 of 45, 256 yards on the touchdown. And a Hollywood Brown sighting, but it's Marquise these days. 6 receptions, 88 yards. Your thoughts, sir?
Whether it's Marquise or Hollywood, at least he doesn't have the issues that his relative has. So I mean, he can switch his names back and forth all day long that he wants to. But hey, as long as he doesn't give you the problems that his relative gives you, and then I'm all for that. But hey, this game was definitely pretty ugly. And Cardinals slipping to 2-10. Kyler Murray, 27 of 45, 256 yards and 1 touchdown. At least now he can feel the brunt of the team that's around him, not being as well as they are. So this may inevitably be an audition for another team, but you know, I don't know if he would have done a better job of just sitting the rest of the year out and coming back next year fresh, because 27 of 45 is horrible completion of attempts numbers. 256 yards is definitely respectable, but you know, when you look at the overall game and the fact that Matthew Stafford threw 229 yards and 4 touchdowns with 1 pick and beat you 37-14, this speaks more volumes on how bad the defense is for the Arizona Cardinals. And if you're giving up 37 points, then the only way you would have won this game is if you would have scored pretty much 7 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, and as a whole, we got 42 points. So there's no way with this Cardinals team that Kyler Murray is going to be able to do that, because he doesn't have the weapons around him to really make that even possible. And for that being said, you know, outside of Marquise Brown, there's not a lot that you have. Even Trey McBride put up some numbers, 7 of 60. But outside of those two, you don't have anybody else that can really give you anything on this team. You definitely need to be looking elsewhere to play football if you're Kyler Murray, if possible, because they're going to have a high pick next year, and they don't seem to be making any plans to help you out. They want to replace you more than help you. And that's not the right mindset for a Cardinals team who's taken 2 top 10 or 2 top 5 quarterbacks or 2 number 1 quarterbacks, in the past 5 years?
Yep.
So, and they've gotten to where they're 2-10 inside of, you know, this first part of this year. No, like this is not the team you want to play for if you're Kyler Murray.
No. And I think he's known that for a couple of years. And now he's got a chance to actually sit on the bench and realize, this is not the place for me. And unfortunately, many Cardinals quarterbacks have come to that realization. And I mean in the last 5 years. So horrible times for the Cardinals. Oh boy.
Sick Diggy!
What's up, Sick? All right, I won't say it's Bull and Shoe ugly, but this was somewhat Dumpster Pelican-ish.
Yes.
The Chiefs and the Raiders, yes, the old AFC West rivalry, which is not really much of one and hasn't been much of one in recent memory, and it wasn't up to snuff in this one as the Chiefs went to Vegas and beat the Raiders 31-17. Patrick Mahomes, pretty good game, 27-34, 298 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce gave you 6 receptions, 91 yards. On the losing end, Aiden O'Connell, 23 of 33, 248 yards and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs on the ground gave you 20 carries, 110 yards and a touchdown. But the stat that I'm looking at here, the wide receiver core of the Chiefs being horrible, but I think they have possibly tried to find one in Rashee Rice. Number 4 gave you 8 receptions, 108 yards and a touchdown. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
The Raiders were competitive, man.
They are.
You know, overall for the most part of the game, and you just like we both said over the past month now since they made that change from Josh McDummy, you know, getting old AP in there definitely has been
better.
They're so much better. You can see it in their energy, how they're playing, you know, pregame, postgame, their demeanor. I mean, even in a loss, they're still happy. Just because, you know, they've got a better, you know, leadership for their team now, and to be competitive in a divisional game. Yeah. Aiden O'Connell, you know, only having 10 incompletions and taking care of the ball, you know, not turning it over. You know, had he been able to get, you know, one or two more passes inside the end zone and score a little bit more, that'd have been the difference. But when you're playing against the, you know, the defending Super Bowl champions, you got the, you know, the MVP, two-time MVP with, you know, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, only missing 7 of his passes. The only negative thing I would have to say about the Chiefs that probably kept this game as close as it was the fact that Isaiah Pacheco only had 55 rushing yards on 15 carries, was you know, averaging under 4 yards per carry. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns, but you know, when you're at goal line stances, it's not that hard to punch it in when you've got a 2 or 3 yard run to get into the end zone. So when it comes to that, you know, you take those 2 touchdowns away, those 2 carries that he had on that, the numbers are not looking great right there. And that's a big question that is going to have to be answered at some point in the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, because if they cannot establish the run, if that's going to be their average for running is 40 to 60 yards, they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl this year. The Dolphins, in my opinion, will beat them at some point in the playoffs, whether it's in the division round or in the championship round, to overcome them finally and get to the big dance. And then we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of other teams out there that are making a lot more noise, and they're doing it by getting more than 55 rushing yards in the game.
That, to me, is their downfall. The Chiefs, we now no longer need to say the Chiefs' defense is their downfall. Their defense is actually, to me now, the side of the coin that is actually bringing the Chiefs along in this season. And yes, I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes, obviously, and Travis Kelce is still, when he wants to show up, shows up big. But that defense has really carried this team this year, because there's been some lapses on that offense and the way they have executed. But for the Chiefs to repeat, Isaiah Pacheco, more than anybody, needs to be a difference maker for this team. And I agree with you. He can't just get 11 touches. He just can't do it. You got to give him at least 20 or more. I'll say 20 to 30. If you give him 20 to 30, the defense will be thanking that offense. But yeah, nitpicking, but still, it's the fitting champs. You got to, because you expect more out of them than they have provided. Even though they are 8-3, you still want them to do more.
And there's a reason why we haven't seen repeat champions in the NFL in a very long time. Yeah. And, you know, there was hype this offseason about the Chiefs could be the first team and quite some time to do it, and, you know, 20 years to do it. And it doesn't look like, in my opinion, that it's going to happen. No. But there's still 6 weeks left in the season. Then we still have another month of the playoffs before we get to the Super Bowl. So when I think about all that, anything is possible. And we've seen wild card teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers recently win a Super Bowl. So anything can happen in the NFL.
Yeah. Anything is possible. Yeah, it's true.
My man is on a singing spree this morning. I love it, starting to show off with it. And we haven't even got to the first segment, but I love it because it's getting me hype on this Tuesday morning.
I love it. What was it with all of these nationally televised games being bowling shoe ugly? The Sunday night game was yet another. As the Ravens beat down and beat up the Chargers 20-10. The Ravens offense gave you 179 yards on the ground. Lamar Jackson gaining 39 of them on 11 carries. He had a very hard game, 18-32, 177 yards and a touchdown through the air. For a losing cause, Justin Herbert, 29-44, 217 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Justin, go to Dean Spanos and demand for Brandon Staley to get out of LA. I'm sorry, my bad. This isn't post game. Keenan Allen, 14 receptions, 106 yards. Your thoughts, sir?
This game right here. You know, when you think about Brandon Staley, and you think about, requesting for his walking papers, there's a little bit more to this, in my opinion, that kind of goes into it. And, even though Brandon Staley is a problem, I've brought this up with several other teams and just brought it up recently. So I'm not trying to be monotonous and sound like a robot, but their running attack there is definitely a problem. And, there's been some question marks on that O-line for a little bit too. But I think a little bit of this goes into the preparation of their game plan going into it. And the fact that Brandon Staley is calling more plays that involve quarterback runs. We've got Justin Herbert right here with the most amount of rushing yards for the game, 4 carries for 47 yards. Now, he's not carrying the ball the most amount of times, but the fact that your game plan is only resulting in a total of 39 yards on 15 carries between Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, and Darius Davis. 15 carries for 39 yards, Cole. That is absolutely dumpster Pelican-esque numbers, and something that you should not be proud of if you are, an offensive coordinator for that team, the head coach, or just play for that team.
You can't handle the truth.
Because it's absolutely sad. Yes, probably the 8th one in the back right there. I'm not going to put them towards the top 5 because there's been other teams that are definitely in the top 5. We'll rank them as the 8th dumpster Pelican for my first dumpster Pelican ranking of the show for today. So with that being said,
let's get ready to rumble!
Because
Let me talk to you.
I ain't done yet, bro.
What?
Said I ain't done yet.
What?
It's time to get the people hyped.
What?
Like Folgers in your cup.
What?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you look at this Chargers team right here, they've got to make some moves. There's several other teams that need to make moves. And if they don't,
stop it. Get some help.
Because it's not working out with the head coach. It's not working out with your running attack. And definitely, like many other teams that I've mentioned, they need some help on that offensive line.
Acknowledge me.
So, with that being said, the floor is yours, my man.
Oh man, look, I just want this guy who is a defensive specialist, and he's only been a defense coordinator 1 year before he got the job, and supposedly his specialty is defense. I want him to stop handicapping his team because he handicaps the defense by having Justin Herbert, and he handicaps his quarterback at the same time, by having him throw 40, 50 times a game, and like you said too, not on top of it, having him run called runs too many times too. And I'm thinking, you're supposed to help the team, not hurt them. He frustrates me. 6 says bowling shoe ugly. Most of these games this weekend were nastier than a grimy pair of flip-flops. Oh, and speaking of grimy pair of flip-flops,
That's terrible.
You're right about that. DJ to a Dobbs. Kevin. Matt Eberflus. You're keeping score at home. That's right. This was a quintuple bowling shoe ugly game last night between the Bears and the Vikings. The Bears with 4 field goals and not an area touchdown scored beat the Vikings 12-10. Justin Fields, 27-37, 217 yards, and 2, along with 12 carries for 59 yards on the ground. DJ Moore, he had a good game, 11 receptions, 414 yards. And the former Commander, Montez Sweat, gave you a sack and a half. For the losing effort of the Vikings, Joshua Dobbs, 22-32, 185 yards, a touchdown, and not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 picks. And because of this performance, O'Connell actually said that he is not sure after the bye if Dobbs is going to continue being the starting quarterback for the Vikings. Danielle Hunter for the Vikings on the Vikings defensive end, he also gave you a sack and a half. Your thoughts on a straight up throwback NFC Norris type of game?
Let me talk to you.
When it comes to this situation right here, there's so much hype on old JD, on old Joshua Dobbs when he was the 17th string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, coming into the preseason, doing what this man did.
Yeah.
And the man goes to Arizona.
What?
Actually, did better than what old Kyler Duty is doing right now.
What?
Oh, yeah, I would bad call him Call of Duty.
What?
Because the new Call of Duty is out, just came out recently. He's putting some time in on that and not spending it on the playbook.
What?
Oh, it showed yesterday, Kyler.
What?
And now your boy's playing Call of Duty with you, probably in the party.
What?
As he has just now came into this game and thrown 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions.
What?
Because he was playing too much Call of Duty Saturday night.
What?
Sorry, I clicked the button a little too late.
What?
Now I'm back. Let's do this.
What?
All right, when it comes to this situation right here,
Acknowledge me.
because I am on fire when it talks about JD showing up 185 yards. Now, at least he only had 10 incompletions.
What?
But he threw for 4 mother-father interceptions.
What?
Oh, yeah, I just said mother-father.
Stop it. Get some help.
No, you do it because I censored myself. That is my take.
Oh my God. Oh Lord.
But before I need to retort. Joshua Dobbs is the 4th dumpster Pelican now, moved up on this list with 4 interceptions in a game. He is the 4th dumpster Pelican of the week.
Oh my gosh.
Stop it. Get some help.
Or
Acknowledge me.
Oh my gosh.
Cole's even got the lean going on. That's how you know I twisted him up. When Cole's leaning, that's when I know I twisted him up.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
But
Oh my gosh.
welcome back, Cole.
Gosh. And now for the upset of the week. And this was the first game that was offered for week 12. That's right, the traditional Detroit Thanksgiving Day game. We were getting ready for a 12:30 kickoff on Thursday. We were expecting the Lions at 8-2 to spectacularly show us that they are arrived, that they're here. And then the Packers put up 20 points in the first quarter against them. The Packers beat them 29-22 off of Jordan Love's 22 of 32 performance through the air, 258 yards and 3 touchdowns. Christian Watson through the air gave you 5 receptions and 94 yards with a touchdown. But the Packers defense was not to be outdone. They gave you 3 sacks, and they had Jared Goff go 3 times. As he went 29-44 for 30 and 32 yards and 2 touchdowns. Along with those 3 lost, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he had a pretty good game, 9 receptions and 95 yards. Khalif Raymond pitched in for 5 receptions and 90 yards. And the Lions offense, 440 rushing yards. Everything looked good except for the 3 lost fumbles and the crappy first quarter. Your thoughts, sir?
You're spot on with that. That was one of the things I was actually going to throw out there. When you look at the amount of numbers that were put up by the Lions overall as a team, they should have won this game. But what was the thing that changed the outcome of the entire game was the fact that they gave up the ball 3 times. They had 3 turnovers in the game, and that in itself, when you fumble the ball 3 times, you're just asking to lose at that point. You're lucky you only lost by 1 possession, considering the fact that you were down by 3 possessions early on in the game, like you had just mentioned when you started out with the with this part of the show. So if you are the Lions, you should be grateful that you didn't get embarrassed during this holiday weekend, because, I mean, it's embarrassing enough to, not only have 7 penalties for 51 yards, which wasn't even as bad as what the Packers did, but when you have 3 fumbles and, good on Jared Goff for not throwing interceptions, but the fumbles themselves definitely speak quite a bit of volume. And, overall, besides that, you had numbers as a team that normally would have won games. And why you are at this point with the winning record that you have and coming into that game 8-2, you'd won 8 out of 10 games coming into that with similar numbers. However, what killed you was the 3 fumbles, and there's usually no way around it unless everything else is perfect in a game. But you're not going to be perfect outside of that if you're still giving up 3 fumbles.
No, and I did think it was going to be a glimmer of hope because let me see if I can remember this correctly. The Packers had the Packers were up 20-6 with the ball, and they could have, and to begin the second quarter, and they could have kicked the field, and they were on the Lions side of the field. They could have kicked the field goal. They decided to go for it. They botched it because Love was going to hand off to A.J. Dillon. They literally collided with each other. And, I thought, okay, well, with this stand, the Lions probably could come back. But it just wasn't their day. The Packers was just all over Jared Goff. They flustered him. They frustrated him. And if they weren't put into the turf, they were getting the ball out of his hand. So, yeah, I agree with you. If you lose the ball 3 times, you got to be perfect everywhere else, and unfortunately, the Lions weren't.
And most people would not have predicted this game to go this way. And I know last week, and last Tuesday when Kyle and I were talking about it, I didn't pick this game to go this way. So with that being said, definitely good on the Packers and their coaching staff right there, all Matt LaFleur, doing a great job in their game plan to attack this Lions team, and it definitely paid dividends this past weekend.
It did. And congrats to the Packers. It looks like they may be on their way back, and it looks like the NFC North title is not out of reach for them, although they have to do a lot of praying and hoping the Lions fall back to the pack a bit. But this goes a long way as they actually earn a split with their season series with the Lions. That's just like with the Texans and the Jaguars, both teams winning on the other's home turf. And now we have come to the portion of opening drive where we now feature the game of the week. And really, there was no competition for this whatsoever. The Eagles and the Bills, they went into overtime, tied at 31. The Bills came this close to winning it all, but a missed route by Gabe Davis and a misread by Josh Allen. Only had them settle for a field goal, and the Eagles drove down, and they scored a touchdown off of a design draw by Jalen Hurts. 37-34 was the final score. The Eagles defeat the Bills as Devontae Smith gave you 7 receptions, 106 yards, and a touchdown. The Eagles' offense on 85 yards on the ground. And for a losing effort, Josh Allen, 29-51. 339 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, along with 9 carries, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. The aforementioned Gabe Davis, 6 carries, 105 yards, and a key touchdown in the fourth quarter that could have sealed things but didn't. And the Bills offense gave you 173 yards on the ground. But the star of the show, Mr. Jalen Hurts, 18-31, 200 yards to the air, 3 touchdowns and an INT and a lost fumble. 14 carries, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns, along with the aforementioned game-winning draw to end matters for the Eagles and the Bills. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
You know, this game right here, just like we were talking about earlier, how it could have gone, you know, in my pick, had this game not happened this week between the Jaguar game. And with us having this game right here, it definitely opened up the eyes of many right here, and the fact that this should be the game of the week. I mean, we get into overtime, the Bills just having one heartbreaker of a season. Of course, they fired their offensive coordinator. You're now at this point 6-6, a record that we did not think was going to be possible.
Not with this team.
Yeah, and it definitely has raised many eyebrows. I mean, coming into halftime, Buffalo was up by 10 points, 17-7. Which is why if you would have stopped watching this game at halftime because you had to go into work or whatever the case may be, you wouldn't have thought that this game would have ended the way that it did in overtime with the loss to the Bills and the Eagles coming back the way they did. But there's a reason why the Eagles made the Super Bowl last year. There's a reason why they've got the record that they have at this point in the year with only 1 loss in 11 games. Definitely good on the Eagles for doing what they did. DeAndre Swift was a big part with that running game right there. But another thing that you and I have talked about on several occasions this year when it comes to this Bills team and other teams that are definitely with a similar record or worse, when your quarterback is the leading runner of your team that represents the leading rusher for the entire game, and in this case, Josh Allen did with 9 carries for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. It doesn't usually end that well. If you're doing that throughout the course of an entire season, it's either going to end one of 2 ways. Your quarterback's going to get hurt and put on the shelf, or you're going to get exposed to the point to where you're just now at 500 with only 6 weeks left to go in the season. So when I put that into perspective, it was still big on Josh Allen to contribute for total 4 touchdowns between 2 passing and 2 running. But that interception right there definitely didn't hurt. Didn't help his cause. But looking at it, that was the only turnover that they had. And the Eagles had 2. They had a fumble and an interception and still found a way to win the game. When you're the Buffalo Bills and you have over 40 minutes in time and possession, and the Eagles only have 26 in that entire game of 66 minutes, 67 minutes combined, there's a lot more going on besides the failure of the running backs to accumulate yards. There's a lot more that's speaking volumes that need to be addressed during this offseason for the Buffalo Bills, and it's more than just the offensive coordinator.
I agree 100%. I have thought that ever since I saw Ken Dorsey get the gate. I'm thinking, okay, that's a scapegoat. because there's more problems than him. And we got a chance to see more of that in a game where they controlled it and they should have won it. But they didn't. The Eagles tip caps to you, 10-1, off of another not playing all 60 minutes, but finding a way to win game. 37-34. We'll talk about them, of course, later as well in the feature trashman segment. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But thankfully we were past these. As we just got finished talking about the game of the week. And now, when we come back, we will give you the Gridiron Scoop and give you who are our dogs of the week with our grand champs. With Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson. This is Total Football Talk. We'll be right back right after this.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Quick!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ready to hang with some fellas who know football? Let's ride. LC Muscles 28.
I think they're the most overrated defense in the league.
Steel Sermon.
We did not trail for a single second.
Tiny Tim.
McCarthy is a bonehead.
A Pistol 90.
I'm going with my boys. Fins up, baby!
Get ready for the Four Horsemen of Pick'ems. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on YouTube. Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying. But this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Poppy J and Wise El Jefe. Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
Cole.
Well,
When you go Tiny Tim, LC Muscles, that was every time. Tiny Tim.
oh, Lord, the tricks of doing VO work. You want to put your all in it. Well, I'm glad that you like the Four Horse on the Pickles commercial. I like those boys too. Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson, and well, we just got through finishing with our opening drive, and now it is time to give you the scoop. What is that? Well, if you're new to the show, welcome to the Gridiron Scoop. All right. Now we are entering, of course, the final stretch of the 2023 season. Let's see. We have Patrick Mahomes. We have Lamar Jackson. We have Tua Tagovailoa. We have Dak Prescott. We have Tyreek Hill. We have Jalen Hurts. And why am I mentioning these names? Well, they are the names who are being considered odds-on favorites to win this year's MVP award. Now, my question to you, sir, is out of those names I mentioned or any others that I have not, who is the front runner for this year's MVP award?
That's a good question, because there's been a lot of great play throughout many people in this league so far, and you could argue that Jalen Hurts does deserve it, but then you could also put in a good argument for other players like Tua Tagovailoa has definitely had a great season.
Yes,
You can look at Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has definitely been putting in some great numbers there. Lamar Jackson of the Ravens, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, those are probably the top 5 in my opinion. Other people would argue Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy definitely, in my opinion, doesn't deserve to be in the conversation, especially with how he's had some down games with those 3 straight losses after the first 5 wins. And then, of course, how he's looked more of a game manager over the past few weeks. I'd put Christian McCaffrey over him at this point as, more of a favorite to be the MVP, even though he's not going to get it. But Jalen Hurts, I would probably have at 1, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, and then maybe Trevor Lawrence at 5. And that's a stretch right there. But when I look at this question at hand, who do I believe is the leader for 2023 NFL MVP? I would have to say Jalen Hurts is still my front runner, as he kind of got snubbed last year, and you can't just give it to somebody the next year. But he's making a strong case as someone who is going to potentially run away with it and take it this year.
I 100% agree with you. I think, to me, he's earned it. And I think he's going to earn it. And to me, Sunday's performance was the best example of a guy lifting a team on his shoulders when they aren't playing their best, but he is right now at that moment playing his best. And he's like, all right, I'll bring you to the finish line. And to me, that is what an MVP looks like. And right now, until further notice, that's his award to lose. And I don't see that changing at all. Not for anybody. Now, we talked about the players. Now we talk about the teams that are competing for the playoff positioning. Because, yes, now we get to talk about these things since December is right in front of us. So, of course, we know the NFC picture, of course, is as follows. You got the Eagles, the 49ers, the Lions, the Falcons, which I can't believe. Yes, a 4th seed is probably going to be 8-9 again, like the Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. led Buccaneers were last year. The Cowboys at 8-3, the Seahawks at 6-5, and the 6-6 now Vikings. They round out the top 7 in the NFC. In the AFC, it's a little more jumbled. You got the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, all within a half game of each other. Then you have the Steelers at 7-4. You have the Browns at 7-4, and you have the Colts at 6-5. They lead the 6-5 troop, followed by the Texans and the Broncos. Now, of the 14 teams that are in playoff position, if the season were to end today, which one is the most dangerous of them all?
In my opinion, based on how that offense has played all year, even though they don't have the best win-loss record of all the playoff teams, I would have to say the most dangerous team in this is the AFC or the NFC or everyone? This is my question.
You could do AFC team and NFC team if you want.
I think that still, in my opinion, the most dangerous AFC team at this juncture is the Dolphins. With the amount of points that they're putting up this year, with what they're doing, even though the Ravens aren't that far behind them, they're only like 15 points below them for the amount of points they put up in this season. I still when you look at the overall people on the offensive side of the Dolphins, to me, I'd be more concerned about them. And the Eagles are still, in my opinion, the NFC favorites. With the fact they went to the Super Bowl last year, the Lions are making a strong case. The 49ers are, the 49ers, as I've brought up many times throughout this show this season. But I would have to say, it would have to be the Eagles and the Dolphins right now are the two scariest ones, in my opinion, for their push in the playoffs.
I can't really argue with that one. And I say it from the standpoint of there is a team that seemingly is stepping up to say, okay, well, even though you aren't playing your best 60 minutes, Eagles, I think we can. The only threat that could possibly do that would be the 49ers, but they would have to be spot on from minute 1 to minute 60 against them. But that's the only team I would say that about. The rest of the league, I think the 49ers can get away with not playing their best game and still win. But the Eagles are so dangerous that they don't even have to play their best game and they can beat everybody. And we're actually talking about them having the one loss. And if it weren't for a third Jalen Hurts interception, we'd be talking about an 11-0 team. That is how dangerous they are. And they still have not played a good game yet, where they have put together 60 minutes where you're like, ooh, I don't want to face this team come January or February. And as for the AFC, when the Ravens can get after the quarterback and run the ball, they're a hard team to stop. But for my issue with them, I think they need to show me in January that they can do the same thing as they can in October and November and December. Their game is built for the playoffs, but for some reason their psyche is not. And as for the Dolphins, they have an exciting offense. Their defense is what gives me some pause. Not a lot of pause, but some pause. And if they can shore up some things defensively, I would like them a little better. And yes, they have played some good games defensively. The Raiders' victory is one. Even the Chiefs' loss is one because they only gave up 14 points to a team that could score against anybody. So their defense is good, but I still am holding out against them. But this is going to be interesting, and hopefully we can keep doing this as the regular season winds down. Now, we were just speaking about the Chiefs, and it's a great thing that Patrick Mahomes, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time regular season MVP, that he has the ability to make that offense look good and then make that offense go. And of course, you have the all-world weapon in Travis Kelce to help him out. But ever since Tyreek Hill went from Arrowhead to South Beach, that offense has not been clicking, especially with the wide receiver realm. I mean, we now have games where you had Kadarius Toney drop 4 passes and a loss, and that was the opening night game against the Bills. You have a game where you had many different wide receivers drop passes, and the 21-17 loss on Monday night, last Monday night against the Eagles at home. Well, both games were actually at home. And it's been problematic. And we featured Rashee Rice actually getting over 100 yards in their recent game Sunday. But that is a problem with the Chiefs offense. For some reason, the wide receivers have been absolutely underwhelming. So my question to you is, how long can the Chiefs last without a reliable pass catching wide receiver?
Not much longer. I think that they hit their peak with that question that you asked last season by getting a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. Because Tyreek Hill is definitely proving that he was a big part of that first Super Bowl, and definitely will be missed as the years go on and they have to work within the cap with Patrick Mahomes' contract and all in order to reestablish what that receiving core once was by replacing Tyreek Hill with 2 or 3 others that can have similar attributes, but not all to combine to make up what he was as one receiver. So looking at this as a whole, It's a great question, but I think that at some point this year, whether it's before the playoffs or during the playoffs, this question right here that you're asking is definitely going to get exposed, and it's going to get exposed in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl this year. I think that they had one great run last year with what they were able to accomplish without Tyreek Hill, but again, I think that it's going to be their peak without him, or at least picking up someone of his caliber. Maybe not quite what Tyreek Hill is, but they're going to have to make some moves at some point if they're going to reestablish that receiving core, because there's too many drops. Not this week, as many as in the last week's contest that Kyle and I were talking about last Tuesday. That was an absurd amount of drops they had in that Week 11 game, and it's not looking much better this week, as it was all a result of the receiver and not where the ball was placed by the quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm glad I didn't get a chance to actually offer my thoughts on last Monday night's effort with the wide receivers, the Chiefs. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, come on, dude. You got to pull that thing in. I'm sorry.
No wonder why Green Bay let him go.
Yeah, obviously. You drop gimmies like that. Yeah, there's no question that is why they said, buy MVS. Yeah. But the Chiefs wide receivers got to help him. And I agree with you. I don't see them making this a Super Bowl with Travis Kelce being their guy, and you could possibly double, if not triple team him to nullify his effectiveness on the game. Because that is now the blueprint for the Chiefs. Have one of those wide receivers or even Isaiah Pacheco beat us. And if they can, cool. If not, we can take our chances and we can make hay with Travis Kelce being a non-factor and one of those wide receivers dropping passes. If not two of them, if not three of them. That's not good for them. But what is good for us is the end of Gridiron Scoop and...
Total Football Talk.
Where are my dogs at? Oh, yes. It's time to award the grand champ of Week 12 of the 2023 NFL season. And for his grand champ or dog of the week, it's Drew.
You know, this one right here was tough. And I know I kind of give a dramatic spin sometimes throughout the weeks as, leading up to who I'm going to pick. But honestly, man, there's many different people that I could go with. I could go with Kenny Pickett with the type of performance that he had this week. But will I? No, because he's a joke. I'm not going with Kenny Pickett. Like, there's no way I'm going to sit here. I could go with Christian McCaffrey for the amount of yardage that he put up, the touchdowns, and also with what he did receiving-wise. I could go with Dakota Rain Prescott with what he did with Dallas Cowboys, but I've already picked him pretty recently as a pick, and I don't think that I'm going to go with him today. I'm going to pick someone who I think I'm going to be picking for the last time ever in this category of the dog of the week, because I think that his career is coming to a close. And I'm not picking him based on the team that he beat this week, because the team's been a dumpster pelican all year long, and that being the Arizona Cardinals. The one that I'm picking for my dog of the week this week is one Matthew Stafford. 25 of 33, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. And I know some of you out there are probably saying, well, Drew, there was some other ones he probably deserved to be the dog of the week. Well, too bad. This is my pick and not yours. When it comes to this pick right here for dog of the week, I feel like Matt Stafford is definitely on his way out as a starting quarterback in the NFL, could potentially retire after this year. And for him to be able to put up 4 touchdowns in this game, it's a lot to put up 2 and even 3 touchdowns in a game. let alone 4. Yeah, he did have an interception, but again, he threw 4 touchdowns in the game because I feel like this is one of the last times, if not the last time, I'll be able to pick him for dog of the week. That's the only reason why I went with Matthew Stafford, and that's my pick for this week's dog of the week.
That's a good one. That is a good one. And kudos to you for going outside the box with that one. And I agree. I think that might be the last time you do pick him. Not because I'm hating, but because I think we're about to sing his swan song. I agree with you there. I hope the thumb's doing better, Matthew. I could go Tua Tagovailoa. I could also go Dak Prescott. Rain Dakota. No, it's not going to be you this week. Christopher McCaffrey. That's a good one too. Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry. Trevor Lawrence is really close, and I came very close to actually saying that he's the guy, but I'm not. I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to go with one Mr. Jalen Hurts, and the reason why is because we were hearing, well, CJ Stroud should be MVP front runner. Dak Prescott should be MVP front runner. Patrick Mahomes should always be MVP front runner, but none of them gave me one of those performances where I said, yes, that is an MVP worthy performance or an MVP moment. That last drive of Sunday's game is what Jalen Hurts did. And for the 2023 season, I saw my first I seen the MVP of this year moment. And I'm going to give him his props. 200 yards to the air, 65 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing with the game-winning touchdown to seal things. Yeah, I mean, it was, of course, it was not flawless. He did throw a pick. He did cough up the ball once. Or coughed the ball twice and lost it once. But he rose to the occasion. And many have said that he was robbed last year. I dare you to rob him this year because there isn't anybody to me that is looking as good as he is. And I'm glad he finally had his moment to shine. So, Jalen, you a dog all the time, brother. But you definitely are the dog this week for me. And we'll be back with featured attractions.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
Little right here. Look at the inside of these cakes. Now, when you bite into it, just as I demonstrated while you were talking at the beginning of your discussion right there, I could taste the drugs inside of this cake, Sick. I could taste the addiction within the cream filling of this cake right here, to where they not only just with that cake right there, but they made an ice cream out of it. They made an ice cream out of it. A 1-pint Christmas tree cake ice cream. Look at that little just smile up there. Look, she is up to no good on there. Look at that. Look at that smile on there, Sick. She knows that she got you. Got him is what's in her mind right now.
Acknowledge me.
Look at that little smile right there. She's up to no good.
D. Willie in the evening. Thursdays at 11:15 p.m. Eastern, 10:15 p.m. Central. Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor.
Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches.
Thuggish act by a thuggish actor.
That gives you some humor.
Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it.
If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents.
I am Cole Johnson, and welcome to
Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon, and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets.
Rolling along here on Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson, and man, this is great. This is wonderful. And Mickey, you asked the question, have we made our picks yet? Well, the answer is no, but we're starting these picks right now. Featured attractions. This is, of course, where we feature 3 of the best games of the NFL slate and join along with us as who you believe are going to be the games that we talk about. Who do you have going for the games that we feature? The first one being the Thursday night affair in Arlington. That's Texas, not Virginia, between the Cowboys at 8-3 and the 6-5 Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are reeling. The Cowboys are rolling. The Cowboys are favored by 7.5. Kickoff is at 8:15 on Thursday. So we'll start with the Seahawks. They, you mentioned it early in the program. They had a last-second victory over the Commanders at home, and then they lose in LA, and then they lose on Thanksgiving Day to the 49ers. How can the Seahawks stop this losing skid? And how can my brother unmute his mic?
I don't know. When it came to the mutation of my mic, I had to unmutate it. Now, coming back to this right here for the Cowboys and the Seahawks, I don't think they're going to be able to stop the losing skid against the Cowboys based on what the Cowboys did this past week against the Commanders and what they've been doing throughout the trajectory of this season. Now, the Seahawks, I'm not going to put the blame more so on Geno Smith, is I would have to, within their total offensive core around him and the fact that their offensive line and running attack, like I've said about many other teams throughout the NFL this season, that's definitely another one that's definitely been getting exposed as of late as well. So when I think about this right here, I don't think there's any way the Seahawks can stop their losing skid against the Cowboys, whether it's against their defense. It's definitely still a great defense without Trayvon Diggs and with what Dak Prescott's doing over there on the offensive side. I just don't think that the Seahawks have anything to, and Mick wants to tell me about getting the game. Tell your team to get in the game, that being the Seattle Seahawks, because they're not going to get in the game good enough to beat this Dallas Cowboys team this weekend, and you know it.
Wow. Brutal. You almost with glee said what you just said about Mickey Seahawks. On the other side of the ball, the Cowboys, seemingly after that beatdown they took in Santa Clara, they seem to have righted the ship, and they've gone on a really good streak. Now, a lot of people have said, well, the Cowboys really haven't played anybody, and when they do, they get skunked. But now they play another team over 500 here. With that being said, are the Cowboys for real? Because people keep saying, well, the way they're rolling especially seeing Michael Irvin doing the George Jefferson dance on TV, saying that all they need to do is take care of business at home. When a few games on the road, they should be Super Bowl bound, which I'm ill when I say it. But are they for real?
I'm not going to sit here and start singing, "We're moving on up," because it's not happening for this team right there in Gerald world. Because when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys right here, when was the last time they were for real? Almost 30 years ago.
30 years
Just
ago.
like my team, the formerly known as the REDSKINS, that I like to call the commies from time to time. This team right here has not been for real in nearly 3 decades. And every single year, every single Dallas Cowboy fan I know for the most part, and I say that for the most part because there's some of you out there that handle yourselves pretty well, but most of you are all hype at the beginning of the season because you think your team's going to the Super Bowl. Well, this is the closest in quite some time where your predictions could be coming into fruition, except for you have another great team in the NFC that still happens to be in your division that's going to get the division lead. Well, it has a division lead. It's going to get the division victory and represent the NFC East with that first round bye or first round, either that or the home field advantage for the first game, based on what they're doing this year. And it looks like they're going to run away with the home field advantage as well in the first round bye for the playoffs if they keep playing the way they are. Dallas is going to get in as a wild card team, but probably maybe the best wild card team of them all this year. Now that we have three wild card teams, the best hope they can get is to continue playing and continue rolling to where that first week that they play is a home game. So that could be potentially in their cards for that first week in the wild card round. But when it comes to this team right here, are the Dallas Cowboys for real? Are they for real, Cole?
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
And I'll even give you 7.5 seconds of this.
Hey, ain't nobody calling me.
They ain't gonna be calling you here midway January when you're eliminated from the playoffs. So there you go. That's how for real I feel like them boys are today.
Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So who do you have? You already picked the Cowboys. Yeah, Cowboys got this game. I don't see how the Seahawks can go into Arlington and beat them. They're out of sorts, and the Cowboys are rolling, and I just don't see the Seahawks throwing a hiccup in the Cowboys' direction. The only hope that the Seahawks have is that the Cowboys are looking forward to their next home game, which is, of course, against the Eagles, December the 10th. That's the only hope they have. Otherwise, I don't see that happening. And I'm not going to be like a friend of ours and with the hope of, oh, it's a divisional rival. Well, they will be looking forward to this game and get beat here. No, Seahawks aren't good enough right now. Two teams that are hopefully trying to be good enough for this year's playoff stretch in the AFC. They will do battle Sunday at 1 p.m. It is the Broncos, surprising Broncos at 6-5 against the surprising Houston Texans, also at 6-5. But if the season were to end today, they would lose out to the 6-5 Indianapolis Colts, both to tiebreakers for the Broncos and the head-to-head matchup thus far between the Texans and the Colts. The Texans are favored by 3. As for the Broncos, now we talked about their defense and we talked about the lack of offensive punch from Russell Wilson. But in your mind, what has been the Broncos' biggest key to their turnaround?
It surely hasn't been Russell Wilson. It really hasn't. I mean, he's had a couple games where he's throwing for over 200 yards. The running attack still is pretty suspect. I think the biggest part here is even though we're having lackluster numbers from Russell Wilson, his receivers are making plays. Cortland Sutton has definitely been showing up over the past few weeks, and someone who showed up this past weekend as well. And when I look at that, I think that plays a big part. You had mentioned the defense stepping up. Definitely when you're keeping it close to where it's only a 2-point game with the Packers, you mollywop the Chiefs, in my opinion, by holding them to only 9 points in that October 29th game. The Bills have definitely had issues on their offensive side, so I think that speaks more volumes as to why they let go of their offensive coordinator after that game, is because of losing to the Broncos after how they started this year. But they beat a close one with the Vikings. The Browns, the Broncos have won 6 straight games, Cole. Looking at this is
crazy.
It's very, very crazy when you think about how they started the year. Okay, they were 0-5, and they won 6 straight games. Definitely one of the bigger comebacks I think I've ever seen after an 0-5 start. So definitely pretty big on them, and good to see Sick Diggy and Cool McCain jumping in on that Comey Media side.
Yeah, right on time, actually. Kudos to Sean Payton. I mean, he has worked around the deficiencies of Russell Wilson. I think it took him a month to actually know how he was going to strategize offensively, for sure, with the unfortunate deficiencies that Wilson has, and still try to make him look halfway decent and passable. And he's decided, okay, well, I'll take my shots down the field every now and then, and I will have a running game that will help out the defense. And ask the defense to do more than you normally would, and they've stepped up to the plate. And to me, Vance Joseph, who I thought was going to receive his pink slip as soon as that 70-20 loss in Miami happened, he may have resuscitated his career and saved it with this performance afterwards. Switching gears and putting it on the other side, the Texans, they were absolutely abysmal in 2020. They were a dumpster fire in 2021. And I will even say, with glee, they were straight dumpster Pelicans in 2022. And people were upset with the fact that Lovie Smith, the former head coach of the Texans, decided to actually play to win, and they beat the Colts on the last day of the season. Now people are loving it because it meant that we probably would have been saddled with Bryce Young. We got C.J. Stroud. And because of that pick and because of C.J. Stroud himself, well, of course, along with the new head coach, DeMeco Ryans, and a few other pieces as well, the turnaround has been real down in Houston. Now, considering the game that they played this past Sunday, and considering the stakes that are high here in this game this coming Sunday, are the Texans now ready for a playoff push?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so quite yet. I think that they're going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to get past the divisional round. They may squeak out with the win in that first week, and I'm not throwing any shade on this Houston team, DeMeco Ryans. I think that they're just too young of a team overall to understand how to get a big win in the NFL, as there's other teams that are going to be in the playoffs that have been there before, players, whether they've been on that team alone or other teams didn't have the experience of getting there, losing that first round, or getting even further and potentially winning championships, that understand how much grit it takes to pull away with a win in a 60-minute game in the playoffs, because playoff football is very, very different than regular season football, as we've seen throughout the past. So I'm not throwing any shade on what the Houston Texans have accomplished and what they've done, especially with the rookie quarterback, because what they're doing and the production they're getting out of this team with the rookie quarterback, I wouldn't say is unheard of, but we don't see it that often. And it's been a long time since we've seen something like this happen with a rookie quarterback and the type of turnaround after the type of play that you've gotten from this team over the course of the past 2 decades since they've come into existence for the most part. Okay. Yeah. They've had some flashes in the pan, but this is one of their better seasons that you could think of in the past 2 decades. Yeah. So when it comes to that, definitely something to be proud of for the regular season accomplishments. But I think when we get to the playoffs, and talking about it now with 6 weeks left in the season, I think it's a little too soon. And I don't think the Texans, as of right now, are ready for a playoff push.
You could not have described how I would have said it any better. I think the team is too young, and I think even if and I actually agree with you. I think they have the ability to actually make the playoffs, but you say get past the division round. I don't even think they'll get past the wild card round because they'll probably have to, because I don't think they're going to win the AFC South. They're going to be a wild card if they make it. And if they were to make it, I'd say they'd probably be a 7th seed. And more than likely, the 7th seed, they would have to play either the Dolphins, the Ravens, or the Chiefs. And all 3 of those teams are just much they're too talented. They are much better suited for January than the Texans are. And yes, I agree. They're too young. And like I said, I'm looking at this team, and this is how the Jaguars looked at this point last year, where they were young and they were learning how to win, and they got a good couple of wins under their belt, and maybe they can buoy that to better performances down the road. But playoff success, not quite. And I agree with you. I don't think they're ready for it yet. But in this playoff elimination game, essentially, who do you have in this one?
I think the 6-game winning streak comes to an end for the Denver Broncos. I think with as close as the Houston Texans were in this past week, and how they've played all season, I think they get the win here. And if they were to match up in the playoffs, this was the first week of the playoffs, and you would set me up beautifully to say what I said in the last part. So that's why I wanted to leave you with that part of, if I say this about the divisional round, I know Cole can knock them down about the wild, and you did great. You did great with that one. So for this one, to set me up with this one, I think that the Houston Texans get the win outside of here, even though the Denver Broncos are hot as a whole. Russell Wilson passing for under 200 passing yards, and with what he's doing, is not going to get it done against this Houston Texans defense. I mean, JJ Watt's been joking around on Pat McAfee show. Well, mainly Pat McAfee and everybody else on their program has been joking with JJ Watt about coming back because he's been working out in the Houston Texans facility, the only retired player to be working out with the team. But even JJ said it. They've got a great core over there in the linebacker group right now, to where he's not really needed unless there was like an injury this week or next week. I don't think we're going to see JJ Watt make a return, even though it would be kind of cool to see him get a sack and then point up at his name. That's up there as he's in the Ring of Honor. So when it comes to that, I think that Houston gets the win here. I think that if Denver Broncos are going to make some type of big comeback and record and squeak into the playoffs, if they're going to make any type of run, which they're not, but if they're going to win that first week and make it to the divisional round, they need to suffer some type of heartbreaking loss like this one in Houston in order to continue to grow as a team, because they've a lot of growing this year to lose 5 straight games after what you came off of with Nathaniel Hackett last year. Then you come into here, you lose the first month, you lose the next game, then you make a 6-game turnaround and a 6-game winning streak. I feel like you have to suffer some type of tight loss against a really good team when they come up like the Houston Texans in order to kind of truly rebound this year. And that's what's going to happen in this game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, Mickey, of course, is picking his Seahawks.
Of course he would, you homer.
and he says, give me Houston. I will also say, give me Houston too, for the main reason that you just said. if you have a QB that can routinely not give you 200 yards to the air, I look at this team similar to how I look at the Steelers coming to Houston, where Kenny Pickett couldn't throw it to a Steeler if he tried at the time, and it made things a lot easier for a defense that's on the come up. They still got a lot of learns. They still have some growing pains. But if you make the game a little easier for that defense, they can knock it out the park. And I think they could do that against the Broncos Sunday. And the L that the Texans took against the Jaguars this past Sunday proves your point, because I believe that the Texans need to have that. Wow, so this is how it is against a big boy. Okay, let's see how we measure up. All right, so with 3 points, so we hung with them, and we were 3 points short. But man, we hung it on. We hung it with them. We fought them toe for toe and blow for blow with them. I think the Texans needed that game, and I agree with that. I think the Broncos need a game similar to that, and I think that game Sunday is going to be that game for them. And Cool also picks Houston as well. I just think the Broncos don't offensively have enough to offset what they defensively can do.
You know, you bring up Kenny Pickett in your take, and you said he couldn't hit a Steelers wide receiver to save his life, and it kind of made me thinking about when Travis Kelce threw that opening pitch for the Cleveland Indians, and he threw that ball like way to the left, it spiked the ground. That's how I think of Kenny Pickett when he drops back to throw a pass for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, it's not going to get anywhere near them. That's why this past weekend was so surprising, seeing him throw for almost 300 yards. 300 yards. It just goes to show how bad the other team is. It's allowing that much yardage from a trash quarterback in Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, the Bengals' pass defense is not all that great. And I saw that firsthand with the Texans too, and I saw it with a couple of the games. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Deshaun Watson had his best passing output against the Bengals when they played them early this year. But I see neither here nor there. All right, to the game that makes our brother Cool McCain happy. His beloved Eagles, who are at 10-1, they host the 8-3 San Francisco 49ers. The surprise to me is that the 49ers are favored by 2 points in this game. And I'm like, I had to do a double take when I saw this. I'm like, okay, I know I didn't drop a pill or smoke something funny. And I'm not delirious. Agreed. That's how I am with this. So if you want more fuel to your Eagles fire, Cool, there you go. Nobody likes you and you don't care. It looks like Vegas don't like you either. I think that's wrong, personally. 4:25 p.m. kickoff on Sunday is the time for this one. For the 49ers, who should not be the favorite in this game. I believe it should be the Eagles. But for the 49ers, the one thing that the Eagles need to be is one-dimensional against them. And that's the only chance I see the 49ers winning against them. Is it possible for the 49ers to make the Eagles one-dimensional on offense?
Let me talk to you.
When it comes to this right here, when it comes to that question right there, is it possible for the 49ers to make the Eagles one-dimensional? I don't think so. Because what other team this year, even in their one-game loss, made them one-dimensional? I mean, we haven't seen it. So is it possible for the 49ers to do it? Yeah, it is. But will it happen? I don't think so. If they wouldn't have gone on 3 straight losses of 3 straight losing skid after winning those first 5 games, I would say it would be possible. But this Eagles team is hot, and they definitely proved it in the overtime win this weekend. I will never say FEF because I am a fan of a divisional rival team, but I will at least say that Cool McCain and others deserve to say FEF at this time, and I support their message. I will just not say it because it would be kind of hypocritical if I say it with what is on my left arm.
Of course it would. I mean, I can say fly Eagles fly, but I'm not a supporter of any of the 4 teams in the NFC East. So I agree, and I think you all should be saying that. And of course, I know Cool was going to say this. He says, "I love it."
I bet you do. I bet you do. Cool McCain. I will just say FEF because you know what it means, and support my boys who follow the message and the spirit of the FEF. But I will not say "oh Feffy" up in here because it is not good for me and my overall flow of how things go, even though my team isn't really helping out my cause at this point either. So I'm just lucky to be alive and still breathing with everything going on this year, including the way my team has been playing.
And actually, let me correct the odds. Actually, the 49ers are favored by 2.5 now. And I'm saying to myself, what are they seeing here? But anyway.
I think they're seeing, I think that they're going around into too many greenhouses in California is what they're seeing.
Must be.
Because
oh my gosh.
They got some type of itis going on right now from whatever they got going on. And I participate in YSL FA activities between 8 p.m. and midnight sometimes. So when I think about that, and I'm up here talking complete sense on this show after participating last night between 8 p.m. and midnight, and look at how things are going today, okay? But I'm not up here saying the complete 180 of what you would think that people who participate between 8 p.m. and midnight would say. It's called getting rest, people, and knowing your body.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I saw that the odds of this game was 49ers are favored by 2.5, I was like, what? Oh my good gosh. So the Eagles, they're 10-1. They are riding and flying high. And I have to say, the last two victories have been I won't say miraculous. They have actually been confidence boosting, considering that they were down double digits in both games and came out with W's. So a team that has not played their best, and a team that you could say their only loss came when Jalen Hurts threw his third interception of that game with under 2 minutes to go, and they were up in the game at the time. Can anyone shake the overwhelming confidence that the Eagles have?
It doesn't seem that way. I mean, of course, one team already has earlier this year. Okay. So, but that was early on, and they've gotten better since then. They've grown since then. And that's definitely been the key word for this Eagles team over the past few seasons is growth. Jalen Hurts and what he's becoming, and someone that I believe will win the MVP this season. Because he did get screwed out of it, last year. And we talked about that several times, even though that play call at the end of the Super Bowl was legitimate, Cool McCain. You still won't change my mind. But when it comes to this right here, I feel like they will have an opportunity to redeem themselves this year. And it doesn't look like, as of right now, that there is a team that can stop them, in my opinion. I think they could potentially go 16-1 to finish this year because they are overwhelmingly, brutal on the teams that they play, and they deserve to have the overwhelming confidence because they've proved it week in and week out that they are coming, like the Colorado Buffaloes were trying to do in the NCAA, but it just didn't work out for them. But it's working out for the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL.
All right. So what do you have in this game?
What? When it comes to this game right here, who else would you pick? You got to go with the Eagles. I only think that there is one person that we all know that's going to pick the 49ers, and he's probably talking about it right now.
Stop it. Get some help.
That's the message that I would pass to my friend on the chili side over there. He definitely is picking the 49ers. He's probably one that made the phone call to New York and said, give him the 2.5 spread because I feel like it's coming. He might have sent some type of email. He might have had some type of influence.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, if you're picking the 49ers to win by a landslide, when it comes to picks, because there's no way in hell that you should be picking the 49ers over the Eagles at this point in the season?
Acknowledge me.
Because if you think that that's going to happen, it's just not. And even old Charles is coming on now.
That's terrible.
And those of you who are jumping on the bandwagon of McChilly,
Now, that is absurd.
come on, bro. Go with the Eagles. I don't want to pick them. They're my division rival for my team. But, hey, you got to speak the truth. I've always been known for being genuinely real, even if it's gotten me in trouble. And I'm going to continue on that trajectory right now.
Mickey says, look, the 49ers got to respect the Eagles, and they should, especially considering they knocked them out in January. And Cool actually said this. He actually said this game this coming Sunday. This was probably the Eagles Super Bowl this would be the 49ers Super Bowl, but for the Eagles, it really is just another game. The only issue I have with that is if this game took place probably sometime around the same time when the 49ers played the Cowboys, I'd roll with that. But now that we got a chance to see if you take away the running game, or at least if you nullify the running game to a point, and you can be physical against the 49ers offensive line, which, yes, I understand when Trent Williams is healthy, that hasn't happened. And when Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel and Brock Purdy are healthy, they haven't lost a game. I understand that. It does, but they're human. They ain't perfect. If you can be physical against that offensive line of the 49ers, which the Eagles defensive line can, because with the two man children they got and manning the middle of that doggone line, it is humanly possible for that to happen. And you make Brock Purdy beat you, which is extremely easy to do if you eliminate the running game. Chances are you can have, like we mentioned, the 49ers can make the Eagles one-dimensional. Chances are the Eagles can make the 49ers easier one-dimensional on offense. And, to me, it's Eagles all day. And I don't even think – and the Eagles don't even – here's something that we probably would hear. Our beloved friend would probably say, well, I feel that the Eagles will overlook the 49ers because they have the Cowboys in Arlington next Sunday. No. No. Eagles all day. No. The 49ers don't have anything for the Eagles. Not now, not in January. They just aren't good enough. Not right now. They're just not good enough. Now, they probably give the Eagles the best game of all the teams in the NFL, but they're just not good enough. And in my opinion, the Chiefs is a good barometer. They gave them a fight, but it was just not enough. And I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be not enough. Not enough.
Yeah, said friend is going to probably look at the fact that they beat the Cowboys 42-10 earlier this season. And, congratulations, that was part of your first 5 games, but a lot has changed since those first 5 games of the season. That game in itself was probably the turning point for the Cowboys, in my opinion, because they haven't had an embarrassing loss like that since then at all. So with that being said, I think that the 49ers themselves are probably going to come into this game looking at what they did to the Cowboys and probably thinking that they could, have their way with the Eagles like that. And there's no way that's going to be possible, especially with what the Eagles have done in the last calendar year or so. So I have to agree with you on that. CISC is in the house. That's what I've dubbed that
What's
person.
up, man?
Yes, definitely. Yesterday on Commander's Gridiron Report, I dubbed him with the CISC. So definitely thank you for showing back up there, CISC. Now, when it comes to this again, we are both on the same page with this. 49ers are losing this game. It's just a question of how much.
How much? Cool, who of course is a noted Eagles fan, and check out his program on Eagles Elite Podcast on the Eagles League Podcast YouTube channel. That's 8:30 p.m. on every Wednesday, 7:30 Central. He says the football gods are paying us for the Super Bowl fiasco last year.
Hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, to the no.
Cool, he ain't the only one with the hands on the controls, bruh. This is a joint presentation by Kobe Media and Sertoma Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh Lord, yeah, we are creating content magic in the real world. But Cool says, look, y'all forgot the 49ers won the Super Bowl before the season started.
You can't handle the truth.
Tell that to our friend McFrosty.
But this is Cool. I don't think I've said this on air, but I'll say it now. One of the reasons why I would love being an Eagles fan, and one reason why I love Eagles fan, and I mean, of course, I love you, brother, besides you being an Eagles fan, but the reason why I love Eagles fan is because you all really get with the disrespect. You love it. The more disrespect your team receives, the more you love it, and the more venom you spit out because it's beautiful. It's like, we told y'all it's us versus everybody, and the energy that you all have, I embrace it. I do. I embrace it.
Mickey got me again. That's what I was just laughing at.
I know that's what you were laughing at because I saw it. I was like, oh Lord.
It's more like
let's get ready to rumble.
Now that they're getting the conversation going, that's how I had to play it.
Yeah, Constipated or CIC says, I still think Randall Cunningham was the best quarterback in Philadelphia.
Agreed.
For the moment, yes.
Agreed.
For the moment, yes. But Jalen Hurts, if he plays a long career, we'll probably have something to say about that. But yes, I agree.
Do you remember?
And yeah, you could say
McNubb?
you could say that Donovan McNabb had a more successful career in Philly. Yeah, but normally when you think Eagles and quarterback, you almost overlook Donovan McNabb. It'd probably be a tie between Ron Jaworski and Randall Cunningham.
Had Donovan McNabb brought the Eagles a Super Bowl, then we'd be talking
different.
Fight at this point. But Nick Foles did what Donovan McNubb couldn't do. So
there you go.
And I've dubbed him Donovan McNubb ever since his time with the formerly known as the REDSKINS.
That's
starting
right.
out great, coming out the gate, then signed that big old contract, and then
That's
took
right.
a dump.
Because he did play for the Slur.
Next, the chopping block and snowflake of the week. This is Total Football Talk. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kermit the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. On YouTube and where you can find all podcasts. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. Football, and more football, you say? Well, tune in to Total Football Talk. Join your hosts, Drew Willingham.
You were playing like a dumpster Pelican quarterback.
And Cole Johnson.
It sets up a possible play action. Did you hear that, Dak Prescott?
As they take you through all the paces, both on the field and in the boardroom, of Total Football Talk. Every Tuesday at
9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central.
Exclusively on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson, and in the chat we're having a good conversation here. CISC says Norm Van Brocklin, who also was an Eagles and also a former Rams quarterback too, says he was a great QB. He was, but when he played, it was like for 2 years at the end of his career. Because most of his career he played for the Rams, where he garnered his fame. Cool, who is a noted Eagles fan, he even says McNabb just wasn't that dude. And I think that's how you all felt even when you drafted him, because you booed him. Well, you all should be thanking your lucky stars. You booed him because he didn't draft Ricky Williams, but
you weren't booing him during the 2004 season.
But he brought you to a Super Bowl, and he brought you to a few NFC Championship games too. But he wasn't that dude, and he's not. He's not held in high regard as, like you said, Nick Foles, Randall Cunningham, even Ron Jaworski. And it's strange that it is, and I think if Jalen brings a Super Bowl home, we can add him to that mix. I dare say if he even brings it to another Super Bowl trip, we could probably add him to that mix too. But no question. No question. Enjoy the talk. Continue. We love the convo. And we're going to add more to that convo because here comes the chopping block. And Cool says, look, McNabb, he never won his big games. He could win, but he wasn't trash or trash. I don't know where I got that from. But he was very good, not great. And I agree with that. I agree with that assessment. But who was also good for the Eagles, but not so much elsewhere? You like that segue there. Frank Reich. It looks like Dave Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, wants to go in a new direction. So the Panthers yesterday handed Frank Reich his walking papers after the Panthers 1-10 start with 6 games remaining in NFL season. The owner of the team went onward to say about the firing, quote, I met with Coach Reich this morning and informed him that he will not continue as head coach of the Carolina Panthers. I want to thank Frank for his dedication and service, and we wish him well. Close quote. Now, with that dumpster fire of wrong thing. With the dumpster Pelican situation that is in Charlotte, who should follow Frank Reich?
I think the question now is who shouldn't. Because definitely in my opinion, I feel like Thomas Brown, the offensive coordinator, needs to be given his walking papers. Just based on the production that they've gotten out of that offense this year. He's another big question mark. I mean, funny thing is the interim head coach, Chris Tabor, looks like the cyborg cop from Terminator. If you look at his headshot, he reminds me of the Terminator's nemesis in that Terminator movie. So is what I'm thinking about right now. So when it comes to that, they need to get rid of the cyborg. They need to get rid of the offensive coordinator and many other coaches. They need to completely blow this thing up. I think David Tepper needs to sell the team and sell it to somebody who actually knows the game of football, because he is just a rich man throwing money around in the NFL. The difference between him and Jerry Richardson, of course, Jerry Richardson probably wasn't a stand-up guy outside of football, but when it comes to knowing the game of football and making football decisions that are sound for his team, Jerry Richardson built a team that went to the Super Bowl. It wasn't more so Ronald Eugene Rivera and what he did with being on the back of Cam Newton. I think a lot of that has to play into the fact that Jerry Richardson built that team around putting his aces in places, having a good general manager, and ones that made moves to get that team that far. Since David Tepper's taken over this team, the Carolina Panthers have become a really big joke, and you can't put so much on the coaching when you have a terrible owner at play, and that's how I feel when it comes to this Carolina Panthers team. So who should follow Frank Reich? Everyone should follow Frank Reich on out the door.
Everyone should follow him out the door, huh? Okay.
That's terrible.
Oh my gosh. Everyone should follow him out the door. Okay. I understand the sentiment, but
I mean,
that organization is bad. It is bad.
I mean, when you look down the list of their entire coaching staff, Cole Johnson, who would you even keep?
That's a good question. And I'm with you on this, Cole. Tepper, who actually also lives in Charlotte, he says Tepper needs to fire football people and butt out. I agree. That's exactly what he needs to do.
The short version of what I said, yes, Cool McCain, yes, but it to the point of what you just said, it's like this has been going on for years since he's been the owner there. I mean, it went from a decent team when Jerry Richardson was in charge to now being at the bottom of the league. And you don't even have your first round pick next year that somebody else is going to get to pick that number one overall pick.
Yeah, that will be in the possession of the Bears. They gotta love that. Keep losing, Carolina. Keep losing.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
Now, speaking of keep losing, I think that's what the Patriots are saying. And why? With their season teetering toward, no, it ain't teetering toward. With their season in free fall collapse, the Patriots made a change at quarterback for the fourth time. Mac Jones threw 2 picks in the 10-7 whitewash loss against the Giants in the Meadowlands, but Bailey Zappi came close to saying hold my beer and threw a third. Now, my question to you is just this simple. When should Mac Jones lose his job?
As soon as this man walks up to him and says this.
Yeah!
Because it's time. It's time, Mac and Cheese. You have now gone stale. Nobody is buying your services anymore. Your best shot is to go to the XFL and prove that you can still play quarterback and then maybe get an opportunity at being a backup quarterback. I might be being a little bit harsh on him. He may deserve to go to another team and prove that he can still be a quarterback because he's had flashes in the pan, especially his sophomore year. So overall, in the first year wasn't that bad. Overall, he could be a quarterback somewhere else. I just don't think it could be with the Patriots. I think that whether it's for Bill Belichick, who probably won't be there next year, or for the organization just to see if they have any other option at quarterback with Bailey Zappi or any other ones who may be on the practice squad, you might as well take the remaining 6 weeks of the season and see what else you got, because we've seen enough of Mac and Cheese this year. Someone who sponsors Mac and Cheese, being Kraft, should definitely do a better job when it comes to their homework on Mac and Cheese.
Oh, and speaking of Kraft, that was mentioned earlier in the chat when we were talking about the 49ers Eagles spread. Cool says they've been hanging out, talking about the Ozmakers, at the Robert Kraft Deshaun Watson facilities. Cool is lobbying for Frank Reich as we speak. He says we need an offensive consultant. He said, Frank, come home. home. We got beans and bologna.
Yeah. Yeah.
You couldn't have done it better than that. I'm sorry. You couldn't. What? The Cole is definitely great, but this guy's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to throw it in there.
Yeah, and when it comes to the yes from LA Knight, I even have to
acknowledge me.
You are correct. I had to acknowledge him.
I'm glad I didn't have to.
Stop it. Get some help.
Because you were reeling right in, so my man. But no, guys. When it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles wanting Frank Reich,
yeah.
No, wrong one. So when it comes to that, you're going to give him beans and bologna. Is that his wages? Nah, he should just sit out the rest of this season, get that paycheck for being a head coach just to do nothing because he was released during the season. So, yeah, he may get a better shot at getting a Super Bowl, and he may give the Eagles the leg up on their Super Bowl. But it looks like the Eagles are doing just fine without him. Having a Super Bowl appearance, being 10-1, they don't need Frank Reich at this time of the year.
They don't. That's cold.
Because CISC says they need Steve Grogan instead.
Oh, Lord.
No, I'm just kidding. The Patriots need Steve Grogan over what they got now because he, at an older version of what he did do when he was with the New England Patriots back in the day, would do better than what Mac and Chi is doing in present day. Steve Grogan at 89 and a half years old would do better as a quarterback right now.
Stop it. Get some help.
Oh my God, Steve Grogan. Next, you're going to tell me they need to have Jim Plunkett from when the Patriots drafted him, not when he won the Super Bowl 10 years later. Oh my gosh.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but I would say go for Grogan. It's like a election 2024 slogan. Go for Grogan. Because he's a better option than what we got out there, but this is not a political show. Go for Grogan. I'm going to put that in the hat like I did about Chuck Norris because he could gargle crunchy peanut butter. Turn it into creamy.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Absolutely.
Well, another team that might be saying go for Grogan is the Bills, because now they're coming off of the most frustrating loss of their season and probably the most frustrating loss they've had maybe since the AFC Championship game 2 years back. I mean, think about it. They scored a touchdown to go up 31-28, and the Bills had it. I mean, the Eagles were cooked. I mean, it just looked as though everything was done for the Eagles, and the Bills could actually say, this is the beginning of our drive back to the AFC East Mountain, and the playoff push begins here. But all Philly needed was a close to 60-yard field goal to tie the game to get into overtime. See, that doesn't happen, right? Wrong. Remember, that same kicker did give you a 63-yarder to end the game not too long ago. And unfortunately, now we're dealing with a team at 6-6. They are free. Free falling. Thank you, late Tom Petty. Now, my question to you, sir, is can the Bills turn it around, or should Sean McDermott receive the pink slip?
Before I answer that, I kind of want to retort with, are they free falling, or is this the mid 80s and they're free basing?
Oh,
because they're definitely playing like they are been free basing until 4 a.m. and trying to get out there on the field and do something that Michael Irvin would do at one point, but cannot pull it off anymore because of, one, the advancements of drug testing, and two, it's just not great for this.
That's terrible.
Or your body. Go spot on with that one. But when it comes to this right here, when it comes to this right here, Can the Bills turn it around, or should Sean McDermott go? I don't think that they'll be able to turn it around at this point in the year, at least to make a playoff push. But I also don't think that Sean McDermott needs to go either, because I think that they got more problems outside of the coaching. I think based on what we've seen, if anybody who has been truly watching Buffalo Bills games this year, they've been sticking with it. Even in the games that they have lost, they've had opportunities to win. I think it's just the matter of the fact of they need to make some upgrades on both sides of the ball, and they're not closing in moments where they need to be closing and putting the game away. I don't think it's more so on the head coach of like clock management or play calling or anything like that. I think it's just you got players out there that are making boneheaded mistakes at points to where they shouldn't be making those mistakes. You need to get some help in the running game to help the fact of Josh Allen doesn't need to be your leading rusher in 75% of the games that you've had already this year. And it puts him in an opportunity to potentially get hurt. But also it exposes your team more than ever if you've got was this the game that I said earlier had 15 carries for 39 yards overall, I believe, in the running attack. I can't remember overall, but
that was not Josh Allen. I think so. Yeah.
So I think with that being said, you need to address that. A little bit of the blind side of the offensive line. The defense is doing okay, but your offense is underperforming. And I don't want to blame that more so on Sean McDermott, as I feel like we should be seeing better play out of Josh Allen. I think that with the fact of you releasing your offensive coordinator, you're going to definitely replace that during the offseason. I think this team has just felt more so the blow of Brian Daboll leaving a couple of years ago to go to New York, rather than Sean McDermott being a problem for the team. I think if they get another offensive coordinator in there, someone with a little bit of clout who has experience as a head coach, in the event that next year you have a decline and you need to make that move, you can do something where, in the case of like if the Commanders were to do it this year, you can let go of Ron Rivera and elevate EB. You could do that potentially next year. This year, if you do that, who do you really have that can elevate on up to the interim head coach during the rest of this year, for one? Or looking outside of this in the offseason, I don't really see anybody in this year's offseason that you can replace him with. If you stick with Sean McDermott through next season and New York kind of slides or plays iffy over next season, you could potentially bring back Brian Daboll, who could be the head coach, who already worked well with Josh Allen before, but the pieces might not come into fruition if you get rid of your head coach a little bit too soon and don't try the other pieces around it. There's many other ways the Bills could play this if they just stay a little bit patient. This is like their first iffy season in a while, and they're still at 500 at this point. I think with 6 weeks left in the season, it's a little bit too soon to be asking this question, but I gave it the best answer that I could.
Well, you gave the best answer you could, and it looks like others are giving great answers too. Well, yeah, and yes, cool. Yeah, big ups to Jake Elliott. For some reason, my brain was blanking on the name of the Eagles kicker, and he says he also can always get an epic comeback. And I think the Eagles are going to eventually learn that. I think the Bills are learning that now. Constipated says they shouldn't have got rid of Cole Beasley.
Well, now he's 47 years old.
or a target like him, because I think that's the one thing that's missing, because they don't use Dawson Knox in a safety blanket sort of manner in the passing game, and I think that does hurt Josh Allen in the long run. He also says, how much does it cost to heat your cavernous flat? Well, good question. If it's Buffalo, the answer is probably a whole ton. And he also says, or are they going commando? Free balling. No.
That's terrible.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I know I went a little too hard on the jokes. I know. yeah, Christmas may be 4 weeks away, but we're not dealing with Christmas. We're dealing with the snowflake of the week. The players or organizational members that seem to be a little bit on the SAWFT side of things. And for that, I hand it over to Drew.
You know, I don't even want to pick this guy as my snowflake of the week, and I feel kind of bad about it. I feel a little bit guilty about it when I'm saying,
You're fired.
Let's see.
My guiltiness comes with the fact of I put a lot of praise on this guy right now, and I put a lot of praise on him until everything that transpired over this past weekend, and that being this person coming in from a trade, being with this third team in this calendar season, I have to go with my snowflake of the week being Joshua Dobbs for the Minnesota Vikings. Throwing 4 interceptions in a game where you only lost by 2 points. You lost 12-10 in probably one of the worst Monday Night Football games of the season. A game that, you know, teams that didn't score a touchdown all season were 0-28. And now they're 1-28 after a 28-game losing streak throughout the entire NFL. Teams that did not score a touchdown. As the Bears scored 4 field goals to beat your team because you turned the ball over 4 times with 4 interceptions and only converted on 1 touchdown. Overall, for Josh Dobbs, 22 of 32, 185 yards. I mean, he only had 10 incompletions, and 4 of those 6 were the 4 interceptions. So had he not turned the ball over with those interceptions and completed those passes, he would not be on the snowflake of the week or the week list. But because of those turnovers, because of the way the game ended, 1 less interception and a field goal would have won the game for you by 1 point. And with that being said, you were the biggest impact on that game and why you guys lost. And that's why I have to give you my snowflake of the week pick.
I hate the fact you had to award that to him, but I understand why. I do. All right. How can I put this ever so succinctly? Oh, yeah. This snowflake is a dummy. He is trash. He does not have any, and I mean any, understanding of humanity whatsoever. Basically, I'm dealing with a trust fund, baby. Otherwise, I'm talking about Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. And why am I calling him the snowflake of the week? Oh my gosh. I call him that because he had the audacity to actually say that there is, let's see if I can get this quote correct. Quote, rich, white, billionaire prejudice. Close quote.
Let me talk to you.
All right. The reason why you got arrested 9 years ago, you say, sir. This is your words, Mr. Irsay, not mine. Were because, quote, I am prejudiced against because I'm rich and white and a billionaire. If I'm just the average guy down the block, they're not pulling me in. Of course not. And I don't care what it sounds like. It's the truth. I could give a what people think, how anything sounds or sounds like. The truth is the truth. And I know the truth. Close quote. Well, if you know the truth, sir, you're about to hear it up close and personal. You're about to hear this, and I hope you take it with all the love that's being extended out to you. You are spoiled.
What?
Facts.
Spoiled.
What?
Facts.
Spoiled.
What?
Facts.
How dare you say that you got pulled over because you're a rich white billionaire? You got pulled over because you're a drunk. I'm sorry, my man. You have an alcohol problem. You know this before you got pulled over 9 years ago, and you're going to assign it to prejudice? You're going to assign it because they are hating you because you have money and you're white? No, man. They pulled you over because you're a danger on the road. Just like if it was Drew, just like if it was me. Get your head out of your behind, man. No. And the fact you still think it now, almost 10 years after your arrest, proves to me that you still are a trust fund baby and you haven't learned jack from your father, Robert. The only thing that you got from him is the team that he founded and owned. Because you certainly don't have his business savvy sense. You pass that down to your daughters. But you, no. All you know how to do is buy guitars, play with your superstar band, and turn up beers and wine while being behind the wheel sauced. The sooner you get your head out of your behind, the better off you'll be. Otherwise, you are now teetering toward the worst owner in the league. But at least you got David Tepper and the McCaskey family to buffer that a little bit. But in terms of the most insipid things that you could think of and say out your mouth, you, sir, are at the top of the list. And you're melting right before our very eyes. You freaking dolt.
The 2-minute drill is next. This is Total Football Talk. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your Commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Monday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern, 2:05 p.m. Central. Exclusively on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool. Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crayon they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to, I can be the black people.
As she takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, Pacific Time Zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk. Cole, check the message I sent you 14 minutes ago, as it is important. And I will take the reins for a second of our show. When it comes to Total Football Talk, you guys have just now come back from Snowflake of the Week. Thank you to those of you who are still listening to us on Total Football Talk's Pro Sports Fans app, considering the fact that you've only heard me for the past 15 minutes when it comes to the long pauses. I'm doing the best I can. We're experiencing some technical difficulties on the cellular talking device side, so it is not the fault of Cole. It is just the fault of technology sometimes, and doing the best I can to jump on in, take affirmative action, and get my man locked and loaded back on the app. So my apologies for kind of jumping in and taking the reins for a second, but it needed to be done because we need to get that viewership up in consistent communication on all platforms that we have at this time, but we are ready to keep things going for Total Football Talk.
Yes, and as for my connection,
that's terrible.
And Mick, your comment up there about my long blank speech. So Cole had one just as long, and you didn't give him any shade. So at least be consistent with your shade throwing, okay? But we both had some great takes, and I will say that for Mr. Irsay and his picks, he needs to watch his words out there because they can get you canceled real quick with some of the ways you threw some words out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness! But thankfully, I'm not dealing with that dummy. Goodness gracious. And now we are here at the 2-minute warning where we break down, or should I say drill, where we break down all the best of the rest of the week. And because we're week 13, we'll break it down, and we'll first break it down starting with the teams that are on byes this week, which would be the Bills, the Bears, the Raiders, the Vikings, the Giants, and the Ravens. Again, that's Buffalo, Chicago, Las Vegas, Minnesota, New York on the Giants side, the Big Blue, and Baltimore. These 6 teams are on byes for this week, which now leaves 2 more to go on a bye next week. One of them being my partners and brothers' beloved Commanders. But that is next week. We're dealing with week 13. And we will start with the Titans hosting the Colts. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Sunday. The Titans are favored by 2. The Titans are 4-7. The Colts, if the season were to end today, would be in the playoffs at 6-5. Who do you have in this one, sir?
The Titans being favored?
The Titans are favored. Yes. You heard me correctly. The Titans are favored by a safety. Yes. I'm telling you, the odds makers have been absolutely funny this week.
In my opinion.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
I know it's going to make you happy for me to say this. I don't think the Tennessee Titans, who are 4-7, are going to beat the 6-5 Indianapolis Colts, led by the one and only legend known as Uncle Rico. I think Uncle Rico brings the Colts to their 7th victory of the season. I'm probably going to be wrong, but hey, we'll see if those predictions are definitely going to come into fruition. As the biggest snowflake of them all, Big Teddy Bear 1100, definitely throws shade on us when it comes to that.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Because in his opinion, the Colts will be the ones who win this game. No, I have to agree with you. The Colts. The Colts.
The Colts.
Yeah.
The Colts will win it. Yes. Yeah, the Colts will win it. And as for this statement, yes, here we go.
Now, that is absurd.
Just like the Colts are absurd.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Going on. Another Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. Oh, the Chargers against the Patriots. Lord have mercy. We don't even have to go and do the review of this game. The The Chargers are 4-7. The Patriots are 2-9. The Chargers are 5.5-point favorites. And who you have with this one, sir?
Is this like our version of the toilet bowl this year? Because even though the Chargers have 2 more wins, they are still on the level of the New England Patriots. I think that the Patriots de-elevate or move down to 2-10 after this week, and the Chargers will get their fifth win of the year. It will be ugly. Brandon Staley will still scrape by as the head coach with a 5-7 record, but the Patriots will be one step closer to potentially getting Caleb Williams if the Panthers don't take him. I mean, if the Bears don't take him with the Panthers pick.
Yeah. I think the Chargers should win this game. I mean, the Patriots are, well, heck, let's just say it. They are the doggone Pelicans on this roll. They're horrible. They're absolutely atrocious. Another Sunday 1 p.m. kickoff. A game that actually might be competitive. The Saints at 5-6. They host the Lions at 8-3. Lions, of course, licking their wounds from the Thanksgiving loss. The Saints licking their wounds, dropping an NFC South lead game. The Lions are favored by 3.5. And who do you have in this one?
I think the Lions, led by I am the man Campbell, will come in here to New Orleans and take this game away from the Saints. The Saints will drop to 5-7. The man Campbell led Detroit Lions will move to 9-3 and be one step closer to dominance for this playoff push that they're making.
Yeah, I don't have much hope for the Saints. This is a game they should win, but they won't. I think the Lions will come in with the right type of fire, feeling as though they are affronted by actually doing a disservice to playing the way they did on Thanksgiving. They want to prove that how they played this Sunday is how they really are and not how they played this past Thursday. Another Sunday 1 p.m. kickoff. Good Lord. Who do lead the NFC North at 5-6? I mean, NFC South at 5-6. They travel to the Meadowlands to play against the 4-7 Jets. Falcons are favored by 2.5. Who do you have for this one?
The Falcons, with the mustache rocking head coach, are going to get this victory and move up to 6-6. The Jets will drop to 4-8 and eventually and ultimately crush the hopes of Aaron Rodgers coming back. Now, if they squeak away with the win and be 5-7, it gives you a little bit of a glimmer of hope. But other than that, I don't see that happening. I think that the Falcons have a better shot of winning, even though they've been getting some ugly play out of that offense. But if Drake London steps up to have nearly 100 receiving yards in this game against a defense in the Jets that definitely can hold good wide receivers to less than that, I think they deserve the victory if Drake London can get 80 to 100 yards in a game.
Yeah. Looks like Mickey's going against our Lions Saints pick. He's going with the Saints. He's going with the Jets. So am I. And we will get to your question momentarily, Constipated. Another Sunday 1 p.m. kickoff. It is the Commanders at 4-7. They are hosting the Dolphins at 8-3. The Dolphins are favored by 9.5. Again, the kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Sunday in Landover. Who do you have in this game, sir?
That's all I got. Because the Dolphins are going to win this game decisively, and you know it, and I know it.
Yeah.
I almost thought I had to drop
You can't handle the truth.
on you, but I know you can, and I agree with you. Look, the Commanders have heart, and if you can surround Mr. Howe with an offensive line, your Commanders will be doing some damage down the road. But the way they are this year, no. And against the Dolphins, goodness gracious, I feel for you. I think the Dolphins had this game. I really don't want this to be a boat race, but it can come close to that. The last 1 p.m. Sunday kickoff, the Steelers at 7-4, chasing the Ravens and holding off the Browns. They are facing the Cardinals, who are at 2-10. The Steelers are favored by 6. Who do you have in this game, sir?
Playing the team that they're playing, yeah, they should definitely be favored by 6. And if Kenny Pickett can do what he did in the previous game, then there's no shadow of a doubt that the Steelers can't win this game. I feel like the Steelers will win. They'll move to 8-4. Cardinals will move to 2-11. And if it's only going to be if Kenny Pickett cannot turn the ball over. He did a great job in his past game. If he can keep that momentum going forward, then they'll do that in this upcoming game and move to 8-4, which a record I did not see possible through the first 12 games of the season. But I think that speaks volumes on the coaching that we've seen for many years from Mike Tomlin, and he's still keeping it going and still staying relevant in 2023.
Yeah, he's awesome. And since it's on my mind, yeah, probably the closest example, although you can't really fire an owner, the closest example of that probably is Daniel Snyder. He basically got shoved out for, if nothing else, being a sexist and some affirmative action issues. But I can't really speak on it as well as Drew can, but that was some of the issues. But that's the closest I could say it.
He had it close. I mean, he had an underground sex ring. I mean, when you think about all that, and that's just part of it. I mean, when you think about it, that stuff goes on all over the world, all day, every day, underground or not, depending on what country you're in. So, Dan Snyder just happened to have enough around him that was the ultimate blow that brought everything down. He had enough negativity going on around him. And it just goes to show that if you don't play politics right, eventually they're going to find, eventually they're going to try to throw as much on you to either A, get you ousted, or B, force you to leave, to where you have no choice but for your own health and sake, but to just step down. And Dan Snyder, took a stand for many years until he couldn't take a stand anymore.
And probably also, I'd say Bruce Allen, the president of football operations there too, probably would border on along those lines too, in affirmative action firings. I won't say it's exactly that, but that's probably the closest example of that in the NFL realm. It's not as clear cut as, like, say, a Sterling with the Clippers, which that was an affirmative action force out without question. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, sir. Switching to the 4:05 kickoff, the lone 4:05 kickoff on Sunday. These garbage games, I tell you, goodness gracious. The Panthers are 4-10. They go down to Raymond James to play the Buccaneers at 4-7. The Bucs are favored by 6. Your pick on this one, sir.
Bunker Stayfield goes against his former team. With that being the Carolina Panthers, looking what Bunker's done with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it looks like there's a potential that they can move to 5-7 and still stay alive in the playoffs chase for the wild card. It's definitely getting further and further from their reach each week. But with the win over what they would be the 1-11 Panthers, if they lose this game on Sunday at 4:05, it gives the Buccaneers the leg up to potentially get one step closer to the wild card spot. I think the Buccaneers take this, and they take it pretty decisively by at least 2 touchdowns.
I agree. I don't think the Panthers have anything for the Buccaneers in this game. And yeah, I could see Mayfield being up for this one, similar to how he would be if he were playing the Browns. Yeah, I agree with you there. And from the lone 4:05 kickoff to one of the only 2 4:25 p.m. kickoffs, we talked about the other one, of course, being the 49ers and the Eagles. The Browns are 7-4. They travel to SoFi to play against the surprising 5-6 Rams. And the Rams are favored by 4.5. Your thoughts on this game, and who do you have?
Before I answer that, what are we totally wrong about? Is it me or Cole? And what are we totally wrong about? I want to know, CISC. Let us know here in the comments. When it comes to this game right here, the Cleveland Browns and the LA Rams, if Matt Stafford plays like he did this past week, which he's playing a better team this week than he did in this past week, I don't think he's going to throw 4 touchdowns. But if he were to do that, I think they have a good chance of upsetting the Browns, but they're playing a Browns defense that is definitely much better than their offense in a side that's going to keep this game a lot closer. I think off of the strength of their defense, and it doesn't matter if it's DTR or PJ Walker in at quarterback, the Browns will advance to 8-4, and the LA Rams will move down to 5-7.
Yeah. I don't know. I when I think that the Browns are going to go down the tailspin, they surprise me, and I think they're going to do this again. And I agree with you. I think the Browns are going to win it, but this really does feel like a game where they're just going to tank it. It just has the earmarkings of that, and they'll find a way to surprise us. And so, since I'm going to think this way, I'm going to err on the surprise portion and say, okay, this is a game that I think you're going to lose, but you're going to pull out and win it anyway. So, yeah, I'm with you, the Rams. Or we'll lose. The Sunday night kickoff, 8:20 p.m. Chiefs are favored by 6.5. They go to the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field to play against the Green Bay Packers, who are at 5-6. The Chiefs are 8-3. Who do you have, sir?
I don't think the Packers are going to do what they did in this past week. They're going to drop to 5-7 in Lambeau. It'll be for Patrick Mahomes' first time playing in Lambeau. It's going to be something he's going to think of when he goes into this game. He's going to do something special in this game. I just have a feeling. And the Chiefs will move to 9-3. The Packers will drop to 5-7. They'll still be in the hunt for the playoffs, but unfortunately, they'll have a setback this week against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see. I don't see how the Packers are going to give us any thoughts of, oh, this is going to be a competitive game. And none of them actually says to me, well, they can threaten and beat the Chiefs. And then Chiefs are going to go to 9-3 as well. And the Monday night affair, the wounded Bengals at 5-6, they go down to Duval to play the Jaguars at 8-3. The Jaguars are favored by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. The Monday night kickoff is at 8:15. All times are Eastern. Your thoughts on this game, and who do you have?
Based on the way the Jaguars played and what I would say, and I said it earlier as my runner-up for game of the week this past week, I don't see them losing this game. I really don't. I think they're going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, who are without Joe Burrow for the rest of the season, hanging on to being one game under 500. Don't think the backup has what it takes to get the victory over the Jaguars, led by Trevor Lawrence, who is, in my opinion, in the top 5 or 6 of MVP of the season. So when it comes to that, I have the Jaguars, winning pretty decisively.
Mm-hmm. So do I. I don't think the Jaguars will get much of a push, much of any competition. The Bengals, unfortunately, they just simply do not have the horses, as they say, where it matters most, at the QB position. And that completes our 2-minute drill. And it's time for
Total Football Talk.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it.
the post game, where we have our final thoughts for the week that was, and maybe some important things to come. But for his final word or his final thoughts, I will cede the floor to Drew.
All right, people.
Let me talk to you.
Didn't really get too much of an opportunity to go off on this earlier in the show as I brought it up, and I overlooked the slate where I thought we were going to talk more into it. So I'm going to bring it up now. As We saw what happened in that last Thursday matchup between the Commanders and the Cowboys, and we saw what happened on Black Friday as a result, with Jack Del Rio being given his walking papers based on the fact that you had given up 45 points in the game. To the people who don't know, that right there is 6 touchdowns and a field goal that you pretty much gave up to the other team, and the offense only produced 10 points. Now, you can argue that the offensive coordinator and this, that, and the third should have had a little bit better preparation for the Cowboys defense, but it's easier for the Commanders defense to prepare for the Cowboys offense that's been suspect at times throughout this season, rather than preparing for the defense with the offense that you have against that defense. Because, yes, Dak has had some flashes this year and has done some great things, and people would probably disagree with my top 5 of the MVP and have Dak in the top 5 of the MVP. But the way that you lost to the 49ers, I don't keep you in the top 5 for that. Maybe in the top 10, maybe at 7 or 8, in my opinion, but I don't have Dak there. Firing Jack Del Rio was like a season too late. You should have done this last year. You should have brought somebody in. If you, Ron Rivera, wanted to make a strong push into improving your team, and especially on that side of the ball when you had heavy hitters like Montez Sweat and Chase Young that you just had to trade away for draft picks that this new ownership probably doesn't even know what to do with. When it comes to that, I think that you fired Jack Del Rio as a scapegoat, because it should be you at this point of the year that should be gone. But I think, like I was saying yesterday on Commander's Gridiron Report, I think with him letting go of Jack Del Rio with 6 weeks left in the year, and one of those weeks being a bye week, with having 2 assistants lower than the defensive coordinator assisting you, Ron Rivera, as the defensive coordinator now, because before you became the head coach of the Panthers, you were the defensive coordinator of the San Diego Chargers at that time before they moved to LA. And before you became the head coach of the Washington, then Redskins, moved to the football team, now the Commanders. Okay. So I think that this is Ron Rivera's last ditch effort to prove to the NFL that if you're not going to have me as a NFL head coach, at least take another look at me and remember what got me to being a head coach, and that is, running a defense. Now, do I think that the Commanders are going to have a huge turnaround in the last 5 games during these last 6 weeks of the season to save him as the head coach of the Washington Commanders? No. He's gone as the head coach after this year. But could they potentially retain him to be the defensive coordinator and move EB up to the head coaching position and bring in somebody else to be the paper offensive coordinator, but EB is the one calling the plays and Ron Rivera is the one calling the defensive side of the game, calls for the defense? I think that could potentially happen. Some people may say it's crazy at this point, given what has all transpired in the 4 seasons with Ron Rivera being part of this team. But he hasn't been like a huge problem, hasn't been a distraction. He's been great for the team off the field, in helping within repairing the culture of the team, doing the best he can considering what was going on behind the scenes with the ownership and stuff that was there in play before. Some would say letting go of Jack Del Rio would be a scapegoat, but we have had several situations in the past 4 years with the defensive side having a bunch of questions with and without Montez Sweat and Chase Young. So they made the right call. I feel like it was a season too late, but at the same time, you had the question marks at the ownership level before this past offseason came to a close, to where the new ownership didn't really take over till 4 to 6 weeks before this season even started. So when I pulled all that in bay, I think that Ron Rivera definitely needs to prove over this next 6-week tenure as the head coach that he still has something of value to give as a defensive coordinator. And if he really, truly wants to stay in Washington, this could be his play for how he would do it. And we'll have to see how the team received that, if that was potentially one of their plans going forward. This is just me speaking up ideas. I haven't heard any of this, but just to say how it could be when we see how it plays out over the next 6 weeks. Cole, there's something going on with your audio. I can't hear you. There it is. Nope. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. The whole speech haven't gotten any. I've been trying. I don't know what's going on with your audio, but it's definitely you, not me, on this one. While he figures it out, let me jump back in here for a second and just say, when it comes to the fans out there, thank you all for tuning in and checking out what we got.
Right.
We got a couple more. There he is. There he is. He's back.
Sorry about that. All right. Well, I'll try this again. Quote. Those of you who know me know that I'm all about the fans. I have a lot of respect for the game I play and my opponents. Before the game started Sunday, there was a fan behind our bench who was making life-threatening remarks toward us and our families. We asked Philadelphia security to remove the fan, but he was allowed to stay for the entire game. Eventually, our emotions boiled over, and I made a mistake. For that, I apologize. But there's certain lines that should not be crossed. Close quote. Now, those comments came from Bills defensive end Shaq Lawson. So I'm going to make this short, and I'm going to make this sweet. Mr. Lawson, you're right. There are lines that a fan should never cross, such as he or she should not throw stuff on the field, he or she should not run onto the field, and he or she should not try to make contact with a player or dump something on a player. Those are out of bounds actions. What goes on with the mouth is in bounds. You are in enemy territory. That is something that you should expect to hear, because you know what a fan wants to do with his or her mouth? They want to get you out of your game. And guess what they did? They got you out of your game. So the fan wins. You don't. And you definitely don't win because you let their mouth affect your heart to have these be put on a fan. Now, who is more disciplined in this situation? The fan or you? Unfortunately, Mr. Lawson, that answer is not you. And why? For the simple fact that you are in an enemy arena or field or diamond or ice. In my opinion, you should expect the worst to come out of a fan's mouth, because they really want to be where you are, and they can't for the most part. So they're going to do everything they can to help the ones they are cheering on possible. And if it means he talks about your mama, if it means he talks about your dead grandmama, if it means he talks about your dead daughter, then so be it. It sucks, and you wouldn't want to do that, but you have no other alternative but to take it and say scoreboard when you beat the team they support. But you didn't want to do that. You wanted to say, okay, they're getting out of line with their mouths. Well, the fan getting out of line with their mouths had you get out of line with your hands. That is something that the Shield does not want, and it's something that you did. And that, my friend, will cost you some money. It may even cost you some games. And it also costs you, I think, the understanding that somebody's mouth shouldn't affect you in the manner that it did. If a fan talks ill about your family, fine. Fan talks ill about anything else about you, fine. But if the fan actually decides to want to chunk stuff at you, then that's a problem. And then that's something you should address the field of security in doing. And the reason why they couldn't kick the fan out was because the fan did not physically harm you from doing your job. You remember, you got a job to do on the field. Execute it. And don't pay any attention to what a fan is trying to do because you give them the credence to win. Fan 1, Shaq Lawson 0. And it's Philly. What do you expect? Come on. They're foul. They're going to do anything to get you out your game. They're going to talk slick no matter what. You got to do better, son. Please.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Anything you have before we let the Total Football Talk audience go?
Guys, thank you all for the participation between, all the platforms today. And excuse us for the technical difficulties. We both experienced it throughout this platform today. Shout out to Xfinity for making our life a little bit harder, I guess, when it comes to doing what we do out here on these streams. But definitely was a fun one. Shout out to those of you viewing us through Comey Media, Sotoba Media, through all the major platforms. Definitely appreciate all the participation throughout this, because you guys make it to where it makes this a little bit easier. It's already pretty easy working with Cole and doing this for a 3-hour show. It doesn't feel like it's been as long as it has been. We've definitely had some long ones here and there, but it only feels like we're here for 30 minutes. I also want to give a shout out to, again, the Sotoba Media followers, as the numbers that have been climbing over the past few months have definitely been, remarkable in my opinion and in others, but we're only like 700 watch hours away from getting monetized now. And think about that back in how it had no views back in June. It had like 14 subscribers, and where it's at, it's been awesome. And for those of you who are out there watching the content, whether it's live or after it's live, thank you very much. Because again, without Cole and Kyle, who have both worked with me now in the past week, but who they're both a big part of, along with me, and to providing the content for you guys each and every week. Couldn't do it without them, but most importantly, couldn't do it without you guys tuning in and watching. So thank you all for what you've given me, and, the spark back and confidence you've given me this year, because the year's almost over, but it's been one hell of a year for me, and I couldn't have made the bounce back without the two guys I just mentioned, and especially without the people who tune in each and every week to the present and past content. We're also only 8 videos away from doing 200 videos in a year for Sotoba Media, which, considering the schedules that you have and I have and Kyle has, Cole, it's crazy to think that we've done 200 videos since June. Not only even the full year, 200 videos since June, and that we've come this far. Couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you again. I know it's long-winded, but I just, each and every week, it really, really makes me feel special to see these stuff out there, and to know that I got some great support from you and the followers. I really appreciate it.
No, that's okay. And I echo those same sentiments with Comey Media, and so happy about the success, the continuing success of one Sotoba Media and you. And it's a pleasure to actually have a small, slight hand in having your channel grow, and deservedly so. It needs to grow. Now, if you want to follow Drew, all you have to do is follow his wonderful social media homes: Sotoba_media on Instagram, Sotoba_media on Twitter, or X, _Sotoba on TikTok, and others. And if you want to follow me, all you have to do is go on to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That's flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson.
I know I
Well,
say it every week, but I got to get on that.
Oh,
Can somebody send me a reminder message this week? Like in like 2 or 3 days, Drew, get on Flow Code so I can remember. Please help me out here so I can join the club. I feel left out, but I'm doing it to myself.
Oh my gosh. Well, we thank you for liking, we thank you for sharing, we thank you for subscribing and commenting. And we also thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch any and all content that emanates from the Sartoba Media YouTube channel and or the Comey Media YouTube channel. We appreciate it and you. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always, remember, stay safe out here on these streets, and you got to play until the whistle blows. So long, everybody.
You ain't got to go home just yet. You ain't got to go home just yet. I got something special for you. So, guys, I'm still here because I want to share one more thing with you. Cole has definitely jumped on out as he has some work he has to tend to. I do shortly, but I wanted to show you one more thing as we have the 10th episode of something special this Thursday night. This Thursday night, you can find D. Willie in the Evening, episode 10, Stu Shot, Homeboys Pool. Yes, the comedy talk show that I have that's full of shenanigans every Thursday night after NFL football, 11:15 p.m. Eastern on Sartoba Media. So for those of you who are watching on Comey Media right now, check the description, click the link below, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. If you want to see D. Willie in the Evenings, Stu Shot, Homeboys Pool this Thursday at 11:15 p.m. Eastern, only and only on Sartoba Media. Thank you guys as always for tuning in. And Drew, I told you, my friend Tim, about you. He is going to be watching. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, CISC, as that's the only other show I have throughout the remainder of the week this Thursday. So again, from a man, Cole Johnson, I am Drew Willingham. Everybody stay safe out here in these streets.